Welcome to the Discipline Blueprint, Crafting a Motivated Life, brought to you by Mindful Literary. In this audiobook, we will embark on a transformative journey to understand and harness the power of discipline in every aspect of our lives. Discipline is the cornerstone of success, the bedrock upon which we build our dreams and aspirations. It's the silent force that pushes us forward when motivation wanes, and it's the unwavering guide that keeps us on track amid the chaos of daily life. Whether you are seeking to overcome procrastination, set and achieve meaningful goals, cultivate a resilient mindset, or simply live a more productive and fulfilling life, this blueprint is designed for you. In the chapters that follow, we will delve into the essence of discipline, exploring its pivotal role in shaping our actions and outcomes. We'll begin by uncovering the immense power of discipline and how it can help us create productive routines, conquer procrastination, and unlock our true potential. From there, we'll learn how to set clear, achievable goals and stay committed to them, even in the face of challenges. As we journey further, we'll explore the importance of cultivating a positive mindset, mastering time management techniques, and building resilience. We'll dive into the significance of healthy habits, self-discipline, and creating supportive environments that foster growth and accountability. Moreover, we'll tackle the pervasive issue of self-doubt, learning how to build confidence from within and find validation through personal growth. Through practical strategies and actionable insights, this audiobook will guide you on how to channel your motivation into consistent action, navigate setbacks, and sustain long-term motivation. We'll also emphasize the delicate balance between discipline and flexibility, ensuring that you can adapt to changing circumstances while staying focused on your goals. Finally, we will explore how your discipline journey can inspire and empower others, leading by example and sharing your experiences to motivate those around you. The Discipline Blueprint, Crafting a Motivated Life, is more than just an audiobook. It's a guide to transforming your life through the power of discipline. By embracing the principles and practices outlined in this blueprint, you will create a solid foundation for lasting success, fulfillment, and lifelong motivation. So, let's begin this journey together. Embrace the power of discipline and unlock the door to your motivated life. Chapter 1. The Power of Discipline. Discovering the importance of discipline. There was a time in my life when I viewed discipline as a constraint. Growing up, I came to see it as a series of rigid schedules, a suppression of spontaneity. But life has a way of teaching lessons in the most unexpected ways, and my journey toward success was no exception. I remember vividly the day I began to understand the profound value of discipline. It was my first marathon, an event I had prepared for with half-hearted effort. As the kilometers stretched out before me, I realized just how underprepared I was. My legs felt like lead, my breath came in ragged gasps, and I ended up collapsing before reaching the finish line. The physical pain was temporary, but the sting of failure was a persistent reminder of the price of neglecting discipline. Discipline became a pivotal theme in my life after that marathon disaster. I started small. I set my alarm clock earlier by just 10 minutes each day and forced myself to get up, no snooze allowed. It was torture at first, but I soon realized that my mornings were filled with more clarity, and my productivity shot through the roof. As I delved deeper, I found that these seemingly small acts of self-regulation had a domino effect across all areas of my life. I began to tackle bigger challenges with the same mindset. Planning became second nature, and consistent effort turned into a habit. What fascinated me most was how discipline wasn't just reshaping my external world, but also rewiring my brain. I dug into the neuroscience behind it, discovering that our brains have an amazing capacity for neuroplasticity. Self-discipline, it turns out, strengthens the prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for decision-making, focus, and emotional regulation. By continuously practicing discipline, I was essentially training my brain to be more resilient and determined. It was an empowering realization. Knowing that I had the power to mold my own mind gave me the confidence to pursue my goals with renewed vigor. As I meditated on these lessons, I found increasing success and satisfaction in my endeavors. Be it personal fitness, professional milestones, or even interpersonal relationships, the thread of discipline ran through them all. With each small victory, my belief in the importance of discipline solidified. More than just a concept, it became an integral part of my identity. But success is never a straight line. There are always tests. One particular project put my newfound discipline to the ultimate test. It was a complex venture with multiple stakeholders, tight deadlines, and seemingly insurmountable obstacles. In those moments, the old me would have fallen apart, paralyzed by the sheer weight of the challenges. But this time was different. Armed with the discipline I had painstakingly cultivated, I broke down the problem into manageable tasks, adhered to strict timelines, and remained unwavering in my focus. The crescendo of tension built up, but with each passing day, my resilience grew. The final hurdle approached, and with it, a sense of trepidation. Had I done enough? Could discipline alone see me through? The questions loomed large. As I stood on the brink of potential failure or triumph, the answer became clear. Discipline had not only prepared me for this moment, it had transformed me. And in that realization, I found the courage to take the last step forward. Overcoming procrastination. It started innocuously enough. The blinking cursor on my computer screen taunted me, a silent reminder of the work left untouched. I told myself I would just check my emails quickly, but that turned into an hour-long dive down the YouTube rabbit hole. My to-do list grew as my productivity waned, setting off a vicious cycle of stress and avoidance. Initially, I couldn't pinpoint why I kept putting things off. I attributed it to laziness or lack of discipline, blaming myself for my apparent inability to stay focused. Late nights and looming deadlines became my norm, each missed opportunity nurturing a growing sense of guilt. The strangest part was that I genuinely wanted to succeed. I had dreams and goals, yet something unspoken held me back. When I decided to dig deeper, I uncovered a web of underlying causes. Fear of failure was a major player. It masked itself as perfectionism, tricking me into thinking that if something couldn't be done flawlessly, it shouldn't be done at all. There was also the issue of overwhelming tasks, where the sheer size of a project made starting feel like an insurmountable mountain climb. One strategy that began to shift my perspective was breaking tasks into smaller, manageable steps. The concept seemed simplistic, almost patronizing, but it revolutionized my approach. Suddenly, writing a novel wasn't a massive, daunting task but a series of thoughtfully composed paragraphs. Setting micro-goals allowed me to see progress, which fueled my motivation. Another key technique was adopting the 2-minute rule. If a task takes less than 2 minutes to complete, do it immediately. This little gem cleared out so much mental clutter. Checking off these small tasks created a sense of accomplishment that spurred me forward, encouraging me to tackle more substantial tasks as well. Combating procrastination also required a shift in my mindset regarding failure. I came to understand that failures are not definitive endpoints, rather, they are part of the learning process. Reframing mistakes as opportunities for growth, rather than as reflections of my worth, enabled me to take risks without the paralyzing fear of falling short. In many ways, accepting failure as a potential outcome freed me to act more decisively and creatively in my work. My transformation was neither quick nor easy. It demanded introspection and a willingness to experiment with different strategies until I found what worked for me. But gradually, I noticed a shift. Idle moments that once slipped through my fingers like sand were now opportunities seized. My days, once marked by unchecked postponement, became structured and fulfilling. Even now, procrastination is a battle I must wage daily. Yet, Armed with a deeper understanding of its root causes and a toolkit of effective strategies, the struggle feels more manageable. These techniques didn't just change how I work, they changed how I live, transforming potential wasted moments into stepping stones toward my goals. Creating a productive routine. The morning sun filtered through my bedroom curtains, casting a golden hue on the room. I had heard countless times that a productive day starts with a productive morning, but until now, it had sounded to me like a cliché advice. My days often began in a rush of panicked activity, a scramble to check emails, prepare for meetings, and catch up on the tasks I had somehow neglected the day before. It felt like being caught in a perpetual hamster wheel, never really moving forward. Then, the moment of change came when I decided enough was enough. I needed to craft a structured routine to regain my control. Starting with my mornings, I built a simple yet effective routine. I allocated the initial 15 minutes after waking up to meditation and mindfulness. It set my mind to focus and clarity, offering a peaceful start to the day instead of the usual churn of thoughts worrying me before my eyes even fully opened. Next, I carved out half an hour for exercise. Whether it was a brisk walk, yoga, or some weight training, these minutes were non-negotiable. This burst of energy left me feeling more vibrant and ready to tackle the day's challenges head-on. Post-exercise, I allowed myself 20 minutes for a nutritious breakfast, often something simple like eggs and toast or a smoothie. I then set aside 10 minutes to review my goals for the day, jotting them down in a journal. Seeing my tasks itemized seemed to bring a sense of order to what used to feel like an overwhelming heap of responsibilities. Smiling, I noticed how my mornings had transformed from a time of chaos into a period of peaceful predictability. Each element of my routine flowed smoothly into the next, making me eager to face the rest of the day. Moving on to the workday itself, I realized chunking time into highly focused intervals made a profound difference. I adopted the Pomodoro technique, working in 25-minute bursts, followed by a 5-minute break. During these bursts, I tackled tasks one at a time with undivided attention. These productivity sprints compounded over the day, leading to remarkable efficiency and an impressive body of completed work by day's end. Breaking my workload into manageable chunks dissolved what once seemed insurmountable. Afternoons had their own structure. Post-lunch, I reserved a time slot for creative tasks, writing, brainstorming, or developing new ideas. Creativity seemed to flourish during this period, perhaps fueled by the satisfaction of my morning accomplishments. Scheduled breaks during the afternoon kept my mind fresh and prevented the dreaded energy slump that used to drag my productivity down. Evenings marked the winding down phase, where I would reflect on my day's achievements. I designated half an hour before dinner for a gratitude journal entry, acknowledging both big and small wins for the day. Adding this segment formed a reassuring mental buffer between the work mode and relaxation. Finally, part of my night routine included light reading, gradually easing my mind to a state of restfulness conducive to sound sleep. What I noticed immediately was the shift in my mood and energy levels. I was no longer dragging myself from one task to the next in a haze of exhaustion. Instead, I moved with purpose, aware that every minute was used wisely. Surprisingly, I found myself with more free time to spend on activities I loved, without the nagging guilt of undone work. My days had transformed from a chaotic blur into sequences of intentional actions, and the impact on my well-being was palpable. One might think such a structured routine would be confining, robbing the spontaneity from life. But in truth, the newfound discipline brought freedom. Free time felt genuinely free, unburdened by the looming dread of neglected duties. Indeed, crafting a productive routine was like being handed the reins to my life once more, and I relished the realization that I was no longer an unwilling passenger, but the one steering the course each day. Chapter 2: Setting Clear Goals. Defining your vision. Have you ever felt like you were wandering through life without a clear direction, like a ship lost at sea without a compass? I certainly did. It wasn't until I sat down to define my vision that things began to click into place. Defining your vision doesn't just give you a target, it provides the wellspring of discipline that empowers every step you take. I remember sitting in my small, cluttered apartment years ago, staring at a blank page. It seemed so overwhelming to spell out what I really wanted in life. One thing I learned from that experience is that you can't rush vision. It's a delicate blend of introspection, imagination, and practical consideration. Start by asking yourself simple questions. What do I want to be remembered for? What legacy do I want to leave behind? The answers may evolve over time, but you have to start somewhere. I began writing down everything that came to mind, no matter how big or small. From owning a little bookstore to solving global hunger, my list was an eclectic mix of dreams and desires. But it was the process of writing them out that made my vision crystallize. I began to see patterns and core values that were essential to me. This exercise also made me realize that some aspirations were superficial, things I thought I wanted because others admired them, not because they resonated deeply with who I was. In those days, discipline felt elusive, like a mirage in the desert. But then something incredible happened. As soon as I had my vision in front of me, I noticed a shift in my behavior. My vision served as a powerful motivator. Suddenly, waking up early to work on my goals didn't feel like a chore. Avoiding distractions became easier. Every small step I took felt purposeful, like I was piecing together a grand mosaic that only I could complete. One of the most pressing lessons I learned was the importance of review and revision. Your vision isn't carved in stone. Life has a funny way of throwing curveballs at us, and that's okay. Revisiting and refining your vision keeps it relevant and aligned with your current reality. There were times I thought I had it all figured out, only to realize I needed to tweak my vision ever so slightly to stay on course. Defining your vision is not a one-time task, it's an evolving journey. Years later, with my vision firmly in place, I can say it was the foundation of every success I've achieved and the bedrock of my discipline. The power of a clear vision is enormous. It pulls you forward, nudges you to take that next step, and becomes the lens through which you make all your decisions. If you're standing at that crossroads right now, unsure of which way to go, take a moment to define your vision. It may seem daunting or even trivial, but trust me, that single act of clarity will be the spark that lights the fire of discipline in your life. Breaking goals down into manageable steps. Standing at the base of what seemed to be an insurmountable mountain, I felt a knot of anxiety twist in my stomach. This mountaintop, my colossal goal, loomed higher than anything I'd ever attempted. But the truth I had learned and needed to embrace was that every giant peak is scaled one step at a time. The journey towards achieving big dreams isn't a sprint but a series of deliberate strides. My journey began with small, manageable steps. I remember vividly the times when I set unrealistic expectations and subsequently felt the crushing weight of failure. It wasn't until a mentor suggested breaking my ambitions into bite-sized pieces that the quest became less daunting, almost thrilling. These smaller steps were no longer trivial. They were victories in their own right, each contributing to the larger success. Take for example my goal of writing a novel. The idea of producing 90,000 polished words was paralyzing. My mentor advised me to write just 500 words a day. That seemed feasible. On days when writing felt like fighting an ocean current, 500 words were my life raft. The small wins added up. 1 week passed with 3,500 words and soon, a month with a substantial chunk of my book materialized. That first draft emerged not out of gargantuan effort, but from a series of manageable tasks. Each day's completion was a small, yet deeply satisfying win. In another instance, when pursuing physical fitness, I set out to run a marathon. The thought of 26.2 miles was intimidating. So, I started with a commitment to run just 1 mile, the next week 2 miles, then 3. Gradually, with consistent progress, my endurance built up. Each mile conquered was a testament to the power of incremental steps. On the marathon day, as I crossed the finish line, I knew every single milestone brought me to that moment of triumph. Breaking goals down doesn't mean diluting ambition. It means dissecting dreams to uncover actionable pieces. It's a strategy that removes the paralysis of feeling overwhelmed. Even as I built a business from the ground up, daily priorities morphed into weekly accomplishments, which evolved into quarterly targets. Keeping my focus on the immediate task made the grand vision less intimidating and more attainable. As I continued applying this powerful technique, I found that accountability became crucial. Sharing my smaller goals with friends, family, or peers made the steps feel more significant. The support and encouragement I received fueled my motivation to keep pushing forward, one step at a time. In the quiet moments of reflection, the power of breaking down goals became undeniably clear. Each small win was a brick in the grand wall of my ultimate achievements. The merging of these little victories painted a vivid picture of success, proving to me that even the most colossal dreams are achievable. The daunting mountains aren't there to intimidate us, but to be scaled one step at a time, with each careful, purposeful stride leading to the summit. Staying committed to your goals. There was a time in my life when consistency felt like an unachievable luxury. Everywhere I turned, distractions appeared, each more colorful and enticing than the last. Remaining committed to my goals seemed as challenging as grasping sand through my fingers. But as I would soon discover, it wasn't the external distractions that posed the greatest threat, it was the internal battles that needed conquering. My morning routine became my armor. Each sunrise, I made a promise to myself to resist the beckoning comfort of my bed and begin the day with purpose. I'd lace up my running shoes and head out to run, regardless of rain, sleet, or the gloomy temptations of sleep. There was a rhythm to the process. The initial reluctance, the building momentum, and finally, the liberating rush as my feet pounded against the pavement. Every run taught me that pushing through discomfort was pivotal. Even on those days when every muscle screamed in protest, the sense of accomplishment afterward was unparalleled. Yet, consistency wasn't solely physical. It was mental resilience that proved to be the tougher adversary. There were days when everything seemed to go wrong, moments when self-doubt whispered defeat into my ears. I remember vividly a phase during my college years. The pressure of assignments, group projects, and social obligations felt like an insurmountable mountain. I nearly let go of my dream of writing a novel. But, in those bleak moments, I discovered the power of breaking my goals into smaller, manageable tasks. Instead of being overwhelmed by the idea of writing an entire chapter, I focused on writing a single page a day. Then there were my triumphs. Nothing fortified my resolve like reflecting on past achievements. Each milestone, no matter how minor, was a testament to my tenacity. Celebrating these victories became as crucial as the grind itself. I recall the sheer joy and relief when I finally completed the first draft of my novel. That moment wasn't just about finishing a book, it was a reaffirmation that consistency was my ally, not a foe. Surrounding myself with supportive individuals was another game changer. My friends, who I fondly call my tribe, played an instrumental role. They were the voices of reason during my moments of doubt, the cheerleaders at each instance of success. Their encouragement transformed my journey from a solitary struggle into a shared adventure. I realized that staying committed wasn't about being unyielding, but being gracious enough to lean on the strength of others when needed. In the grand tapestry of life, staying committed to one's goals is the thread that holds everything together. It's not about perfection but persistence, not about flawless execution but relentless effort. I've stumbled, fallen, and almost given up multiple times. But each time, I've learned that the essence of commitment is not in never wavering, but in always finding the strength to stand back up. And so I urge you, fellow dreamer, to remain steadfast. Embrace your routines, celebrate your small victories, lean on your tribe, and most importantly, be kind to yourself. For in the end, it is this unwavering commitment, this relentless pursuit amidst life's chaos, that will lead us to our greatest triumphs. Chapter 3: Cultivating a Positive Mindset. Practicing Gratitude and Mindfulness. Every morning, before my feet even touch the cool hardwood floor, I begin my day with gratitude. I take a conscious moment, lying in bed, feeling the warmth of the blanket cocooning me. I let my mind wander to all the blessings in my life, big and small. This simple practice seems trivial at first, but it has wrought profound changes in my outlook and state of being. From the mundane to the momentous, I find something to appreciate in each new day. As I step out of bed and feel the ground beneath my feet, I remain present. The texture of the old wooden planks, cool against my skin, serves as a reminder of the home's history, a trove of memories. It's in these moments of mindfulness that I connect with the world around me more deeply. I wander to the kitchen, feeling each step, each breath, aware of my body and my surroundings. One of my favorite moments of the day is making my morning coffee. The ritual is simple, but filled with intent. As I grind the beans with my hands, I immerse myself in the sounds and aromas that fill the kitchen. I watch the coffee drip, one drop at a time, into the glass pot. Each aspect of this daily task becomes an opportunity for mindfulness, a reminder to savor rather than rush. This mindful morning routine sets a deliberate, grounded tone for the day ahead. Throughout the day, I consciously pause to take note of what I am grateful for. A smile from a stranger at the park, the sound of leaves rustling in the wind, or even the frustration of a work challenge. Each element is an invitation to acknowledge and appreciate the richness of life. It might seem counterintuitive to be grateful for difficulties, but those moments push me to grow and adapt. They teach resilience and patience. In practicing gratitude, I began to notice an inversion of priorities. The small annoyances that once clouded my mind seemed to disperse, making room for a broader and more accepting perspective. Instead of dwelling on inconveniences, I focused on what's truly important: relationships with loved ones, health, and personal growth. Problems that once felt insurmountable began to feel manageable when viewed through a lens of appreciation for the lessons they brought. Mindfulness and gratitude go hand in hand, creating a feedback loop that enhances clarity and inner peace. By being present in each moment and acknowledging its value, even the most routine or challenging aspects of life transform into opportunities for growth and insight. As I sit quietly in the evenings, reflecting on the day, I jot down 3 things I'm thankful for in a journal. This nightly ritual reinforces my commitment to gratitude and serves as a tangible record of positivity and growth. As I share this journey of gratitude and mindfulness with you, I hope to encourage a path that is not only about embracing the good, but also finding value in the challenges. These practices have given me a sense of groundedness and purpose that I never thought possible. It's a welcoming tranquility that invites each of you to partake, to savor, and to see the world anew through eyes that appreciate the beauty of every twist and turn life offers. The more I practice, the more I realize how interconnected gratitude and mindfulness are. Each feeds into the other, creating a strong foundation of well-being. They have become more than just strategies. They are woven into the fabric of my life, guiding me smoothly through its unpredictable currents and grounding me in the reality of the present moment. Turning obstacles into opportunities. Challenges are inevitable. In fact, some of my most significant life lessons emerged from unexpected and unwelcome setbacks. Picture this. I was once working on a high-stakes project that I believed would be my magnum opus. I'd poured my heart and soul into it, sacrificing sleep and social life. Just as we were about to unveil it, an unforeseeable complication arose, threatening to render all my efforts useless. Initially, it felt like the ground had slipped from beneath my feet. The days blurred together in a haze of anxiety and disappointment. But as I began to sift through the wreckage, I realized something crucial. Within every obstacle lies an opportunity, hidden but ripe for discovery. It was in those difficult moments that I stumbled upon new insights and untapped strengths. I started viewing this setback not as a failure, but as a stepping stone to something greater. I remembered a previous endeavor where adversity turned into my most valuable asset. Fresh out of college, I joined a startup team full of enthusiasm and ambition. Unfortunately, the company soon faced severe financial difficulties, eventually shutting down. It was a jolt to my system. I was suddenly unemployed, and my dreams seemed to evaporate. However, during that tumultuous period, I learned more about resilience and adaptability than I ever had in any classroom. I honed my problem-solving skills, networked with industry veterans, and eventually landed a job that aligned even more closely with my passions. Another instance comes to mind, involving a close friend of mine. She had always dreamed of being a musician and had finally secured a record deal. Her debut album was set for release when the record label went bankrupt. Heartbroken but not defeated, she began to perform locally, gaining a devoted following. Leveraging social media, she released her music independently. Today, she not only owns her own label but also mentors young aspiring artists, turning what seemed like a dead end into an expansive career. When obstacles appear, it's easy to feel overwhelmed, even defeated. But what if instead of seeing these challenges as barriers, we started viewing them as gateways to growth? Each setback carries within it the seed of an opportunity. The key is cultivating the patience and perspective to let it blossom. It's not about ignoring the pain or pretending the struggle doesn't exist. It's about acknowledging it and using it to forge a new path forward. So, the next time life throws a curveball, take a moment to pause and reflect. What lessons can be gleaned from this experience? How can this setback be transformed into a stepping stone for future endeavors? By embracing this mindset, we not only overcome our obstacles, but also turn them into powerful catalysts for growth and success. And in that transformation, we find a strength that may have otherwise remained hidden, waiting to be discovered in the crucible of our greatest challenges. Silencing your inner critic. It began as a whisper, a nagging voice that lingered at the back of my mind. "You're not good enough," it would say. "You can't achieve that." Initially, I thought it was just caution, a warning mechanism honed through years of experience. But slowly, I realized this was something more insidious, my inner critic. It had morphed over time into a constant barrage of negativity, undermining every effort, every triumph with doubt and derision. I remember the day it reached its crescendo. I was on the cusp of a major career breakthrough, something I'd worked towards my entire life. Yet, as I prepared for that defining moment, the critic inside me grew louder, its voice more venomous. Panic set in. Who am I kidding? They'll see right through me. The words echoed in my mind, reverberating against my self-confidence, leaving it fractured and tenuous. It was during that dark period that I stumbled upon a book on self-compassion. The author spoke of cultivating an internal dialogue that was nurturing, kind, even loving. The concept seemed foreign, almost naive. Yet, desperation has a way of making one open to new ideas. I decided to experiment. The first step was mindfulness. I began to observe my thoughts without judgment, recognizing when the inner critic reared its head. It wasn't easy. The mind is a slippery playground, and the critic is often cunning. But slowly, I started identifying patterns, a particularly harsh tone during times of stress, or a resurgence of negativity when facing unfamiliar challenges. With awareness came the power to intervene. I started challenging my critic. Whenever it whispered, "You're a failure," I would counter with, "I am capable and have accomplished so much already." This wasn't about blind positivity, but realistic affirmation. By recalling past achievements and validating my feelings, I slowly eroded the foundation upon which my critic stood. However, the most transformative technique was the pivot towards self-kindness. Whenever the critic's voice grew too loud, I would pause, take a deep breath, and mentally step back. I'd imagine talking to a dear friend in the same situation. What would I say? Surely, I wouldn't berate them. I'd offer comfort, support, and encouragement. Directing this empathetic approach towards myself was revolutionary. It felt awkward initially, as though I was indulging in some unwarranted self-praise. But as days turned into weeks, the practice became more natural, more sincere. Gradually, I noticed the internal dialogue shifting. The critic, though never entirely silenced, had lost its dominance. Its whispers were now countered by a louder, more compassionate voice. A voice that knew my worth, acknowledged my struggles, and celebrated my victories, however small they might be. The transformation wasn't overnight, nor was it a straight path. There were regressions, moments when the critic's voice felt overwhelming again. But each time, with the arsenal of techniques I had developed, I managed to rebalance, to reaffirm my newfound nurturing dialogue. And with each battle won, the critic's hold weakened. Today, as I stand on the precipice of another challenge, I owe much of my courage to this journey of silencing my inner critic. It taught me resilience, the power of self-compassion, and the profound impact of positive internal dialogue. The critic still exists, but its influence has waned. In its place, a kinder, stronger voice has emerged, one that believes, encourages, and nurtures. And that has made all the difference. Chapter 4: Time Management Techniques. Prioritizing tasks effectively. Every morning, I used to dread the avalanche of tasks that awaited me on my desk. The mere thought of navigating through the day's maze of responsibilities would drain my energy before I even started. Emails, meetings, projects, all vying for attention, screaming for immediate action. My workflow was a chaotic whirlpool, spinning out of control, dragging me along its relentless current. It wasn't until a particularly disastrous week that I realized I needed to change. Deadlines slipped through my fingers like sand, causing projects to run overdue and clients to lose confidence. A supervisor's stern look at a missed deadline served as a stark wake-up call. Something had to give, and I knew the first step was to learn how to prioritize effectively. I started by taking a step back and dissecting my workflow, much like an artist looks at an unfinished painting, searching for the misplaced strokes. I discovered that my approach lacked direction. I was treating every task as if it had the same level of urgency and importance. This epiphany prompted me to seek out strategies for better prioritization, and I came across the Eisenhower matrix. The concept was simple, but revolutionary. Tasks were to be categorized into 4 quadrants based on their urgency and importance. Instantly, I realized I had been spending far too much time on what were essentially busywork tasks, those tasks that felt productive but offered little tangible value at the end of the day. My high-impact tasks, the ones that truly moved the needle, languished in the background, neglected. Armed with this newfound knowledge, I began my day by listing all my tasks and methodically placing them within the quadrants of the Eisenhower matrix. The difference was palpable. By concentrating on tasks that were both urgent and important, I could see immediate results. The whirlwind of chaos started to calm, and my days became more structured, more purposeful. Another game changer for me was the introduction of the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule. The revelation that 80% of my results came from 20% of my efforts was like unlocking a secret code. I focused on identifying that crucial 20% within my workflow. Those high-leverage activities, once pinpointed, took precedence. Meetings were scrutinized to determine their necessity, tasks were delegated more effectively, and distractions were minimized. Gradually, the dreaded pile of tasks began to shrink. As I honed my prioritization skills, I noticed not only an improvement in my productivity, but also in the quality of my work. Opportunities for innovation emerged as I found more room in my schedule to think creatively, rather than just treading water in a sea of tasks. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. Implementing these changes required discipline and a consistent effort to evaluate and reevaluate my priorities. It was tempting, at times, to revert to old habits, especially during high-stress periods. Yet, the tangible results, meeting deadlines, delivering exceptional work, and even receiving commendations from supervisors, served as powerful motivators to stay the course. In this journey of reorganization, there were moments that tested my resolve. One particular project, critical to our company's strategic goals, reached a bottleneck. The enormity of the task loomed large, threatening to undo all the progress I had made. But sticking to the principles of prioritization, I broke down the project into manageable chunks, focusing on what was most urgent and impactful. With each completed segment, I felt the weight lifting, and the daunting task transformed into a series of achievable milestones. As I sit back and reflect, I realize that learning to prioritize effectively didn't just reshape my workflow, it redefined my professional life. The dread of the daily grind has been replaced with a sense of control and accomplishment. Chaos has given way to clarity, and I now navigate my tasks with confidence, knowing that I am focusing my energies where they matter most. Prioritization has become more than a skill. It has become an intrinsic part of how I engage with my work, ensuring that each day is not just busy, but truly productive. Beating the clock, the Pomodoro technique. Time management can genuinely be a make-or-break factor for productivity. For years, I struggled with dispersing my focus over numerous tasks, seldom achieving the deep work my ambitions required. It wasn't until I stumbled upon the Pomodoro technique that I managed to harness time's power and channel it into increased productivity. It sounded almost too simplistic at first, a method invented by Francesco Cirillo in the late 1980s, whereby work is broken into intervals called pomodoros, traditionally 25 minutes in length, separated by short breaks. In this era of complex productivity systems, a kitchen timer and a few intervals seemed laughably elementary. But, in retrospect, that's precisely where its genius lies. It's not about the timer, it's about the deliberate focus these intervals demand. When I first committed to the technique, it demanded a somewhat radical shift in mindset. I set my phone aside, out of arm's reach, to minimize the temptation of social media or impulsive web searches. The gentle ticking of a simple, non-digital timer became my sanctum, each tick a reminder to stay present and engaged. The first few days were rough. All too often, I'd find myself distracted just minutes into a Pomodoro. But soon, something remarkable happened. My productivity wasn't just inching forward, it was leaping. Psychological barriers crumbled as tasks once dreaded became accomplishable within a single session. I sometimes marveled at the almost tangible flow I experienced, where 25-minute segments allowed for deep dives into complex problems, followed by a few minutes of respite, reflection, or simply breath. However, understanding the technique in theory and applying it in practice were worlds apart. Interruptions, emails, unexpected calls, urgent messages, seemed to conspire against my newfound system. It required not just effort, but discipline. I had to guard my pomodoros fiercely, announcing them even to myself as periods of uninterrupted work. Gradually, my surroundings adapted. Colleagues and friends learned to respect my focus zones, knowing that short breaks would follow, moments when I'd be available again. It's remarkable how the brain, when trained to work diligently for short spells, begins to optimize naturally. I found myself prioritizing tasks better, breaking them down into manageable segments that fit into a Pomodoro. The allure of being always available was replaced by the satisfaction of completing substantial chunks of work, with breaks reinvigorating rather than distracting me. Now, even the looming cloud of a daunting project doesn't faze me. I face it with the calm assurance that 25 focused minutes can surmount most challenges. The Pomodoro technique, with its timed embrace, has not just enhanced my productivity, it has bestowed a sense of control over time, transforming how I approach work and how I value each passing moment. Creating time blocks for maximum productivity. For most of my life, I battled the relentless chaos of an overwhelming to-do list. My scattered approach to handling tasks left me tangled in a web of unmet deadlines and halfway done projects. Like many, I often found myself juggling a plethora of responsibilities, each screaming for attention amidst the noise of daily life. The constant firefighting was exhausting and far from effective. But then, I discovered time blocking, a simple yet revolutionary method that transformed my approach to productivity. Time blocking is more than just scheduling, it's a deliberate allocation of time slots to specific tasks. Imagine breaking your day into dedicated time intervals, each designed to focus on a single activity. It sounds straightforward, but the impact can be profound. When I first heard about time blocking, I was skeptical. How could setting aside blocks of time for tasks possibly tame the storm of my daily grind? Determined to reclaim my life from the clutches of chaos, I decided to give it a try. What I uncovered was nothing short of transformative. I began by identifying the key tasks that demanded my attention. Each morning, I created a plan, assigning blocks of my day to specific activities. 1 hour for emails, 2 hours for creative work, 30 minutes for meetings, and so on. The initial challenge was disciplining myself to stick to these blocks, to resist the urge to drift from one task to another. But as days turned into weeks, I noticed a significant reduction in stress. The clear structure brought a sense of calm and control over my day. Tasks that once seemed insurmountable now felt manageable, and my productivity soared. Interestingly, time blocking did more than just streamline my day, it also enhanced the quality of my work. Knowing that each task had its dedicated moment allowed me to immerse myself fully, without the guilt of neglecting other responsibilities. The focused attention not only accelerated my output, but also drastically improved the quality of my performance. Moreover, the anticipation of transition between different blocks provided natural mental breaks, ensuring that I remained energized and engaged. Of course, the journey wasn't perfect. There were days when unexpected events would shatter the perfectly designed schedule. Yet, even in these moments, time blocking acted as a compass. It provided a framework that easily adapted to shifts, allowing me to rearrange tasks without losing sight of priorities. And with each disruption, I became more adept at predicting and accommodating the unpredictable, reinforcing the resilience of my newfound system. As I reflect on this journey, time blocking emerges not merely as a productivity tool, but as a lifestyle change. It taught me the importance of mindful planning and the value of focus in a world filled with distractions. Today, my days are no longer dictated by chaos, but sculpted by intention. Time blocking freed me from the paralysis of overwhelming choices, granting me the clarity and confidence to tackle my goals, one block at a time. It's an art, a skill honed with practice, and its impact on productivity and well-being is undeniably powerful. Chapter 5: Building Resilience. Embracing failure as a learning opportunity. My journey with failure began humbly, with small missteps that felt monumental. In school, I fumbled through assignments and faced rejection, but each setback taught me more than I could have imagined. I learned that failure, although painful, is an unparalleled instructor. It pushes you out of your comfort zone and compels you to adapt and grow. One of my most vivid memories of failure happened early in my career. I had meticulously prepared for a major project presentation, only to fumble midway due to technical issues. The embarrassment was palpable, and I felt crushed. Yet, it was in that very moment that I realized the importance of resilience. I had two choices: wallow in my defeat or learn from it. I chose the latter. Adopting a growth mindset was not an overnight transformation. It took persistent effort to train my mind to see failure as a stepping stone rather than an endpoint. I began keeping a journal to document each failure and the lessons learned from them. Over time, this exercise provided invaluable insights into my abilities and potential. It became clear that failure is not the opposite of success, but a vital part of it. As I continued on this path, I discovered that success built on the foundation of failure is far more rewarding. My setbacks transformed into strategies for improvement. Whether it was refining my approach to projects or improving my public speaking skills, every failure contributed to a more robust and resilient version of myself. Years down the line, my perseverance bore fruit. I began achieving milestones that previously seemed unattainable. More importantly, I cultivated an unwavering belief in my capacity to overcome challenges. The fear of failure no longer paralyzed me. Instead, it energized me to push boundaries. In embracing failures as opportunities for growth, I learned that the journey is just as significant as the destination. Each misstep is a chapter in the larger narrative of success. By continuously evolving, learning, and striving, I ultimately realized that failure is not something to be feared, but a crucial component of personal and professional development. Looking back, I am grateful for every failure that shaped my path. They taught me resilience, humility, and the unyielding pursuit of growth. The key to long-term success lies not in avoiding failure, but in wholeheartedly embracing it and harnessing its potential to propel us forward. The story of my failures is, in truth, the story of my success. Staying strong in the face of adversity. Resilience, I've come to realize, is like a muscle you can strengthen over time. It's not an inherent gift bestowed upon a select few, but a skill anyone can develop. The first time I truly faced adversity, I felt as though my world was crumbling around me. I was caught in the storm with no umbrella, no shelter. However, it was in this chaos that I learned the most valuable lesson. Inner strength doesn't manifest in the absence of difficulty, but in its midst. In those moments, when the torrent of challenges seemed unending, I turned inward. Practicing mindfulness became my lifeline. I started small, setting aside just 5 minutes a day to focus on my breathing, to be present. Those 5 minutes slowly turned into 15, then an hour. It was during these sessions that I discovered an unexpected cornerstone of resilience: self-compassion. Allowing myself the grace to feel pain, acknowledging my struggles without judgment, freed me from the shackles of self-pity and despair. I was no longer a victim of my circumstances, but an active participant in my journey to recovery. Another powerful strategy was to reframe my perception of the obstacles I faced. Instead of viewing them as insurmountable barriers, I began to see them as opportunities for growth. This didn't happen overnight. It was a gradual shift, a series of small mental adjustments that, over time, altered my entire perspective. I kept a journal and meticulously documented my progress, every small victory, every lesson learned. This tangible proof of my growth became a source of motivation and reassurance on days when the light at the end of the tunnel seemed too dim to see. Isolation, I found, is the enemy of resilience. Human connections are the lifebuoys that keep us afloat in turbulent waters. For a long time, I hesitated to reach out for help, trapped by the belief that seeking support was a sign of weakness. But the moment I broke that barrier, I felt an incredible sense of relief and empowerment. Friends, mentors, and even strangers who had faced similar challenges offered perspectives and solutions that I hadn't considered. Their stories of overcoming adversity added fuel to my own resilience, turning my solitary struggle into a shared journey toward strength and determination. Resilience, ultimately, is not a matter of bouncing back to where you were before. It's about moving forward, emerging from the crucible of hardship, not unscathed but transformed. Each piece of adversity I encountered added layers to my character, enriching my understanding of myself and the world around me. I learned to embrace uncertainty, to adapt in the face of change, and most importantly, to trust in my own ability to navigate life's unpredictable currents. As I look back now, I see that the path through adversity was not a detour, but a direct route to the person I was meant to become. Finding courage to take risks. When I think about the moments that have defined my life, they are often characterized by a single, powerful emotion: fear. The kind of fear that makes your stomach churn and your mind run through every worst-case scenario. But alongside that fear was something else, an unignorable pull toward something greater. I realized that big gains often come with big risks, but finding the courage to take those risks was a journey in itself. Back in my early 20s, I was stuck in a monotonous job that brought neither joy nor growth. I craved a sense of purpose, something that could wake me up in the morning with excitement rather than dread. My friends and family were supportive, but they also warned me of the perils of leaving a stable paycheck. Yet, deep inside, I knew that staying put was the bigger risk, the risk of complacency, the risk of a life unlived. One stormy night, as lightning illuminated the sky, I sat by my window contemplating a job offer from a startup. It was risky. The company was nascent with no guarantees of success. I remember clutching the letter with trembling hands, my mind caught in a tug of war. Was it foolish to leave behind security for a dream? Would this be the mistake I'd regret forever? In that moment of doubt, I called my grandfather, a man who had faced innumerable challenges in his life. His voice crackled through the receiver, calm and wise. He told me, growth and comfort never coexist. You have to leave the shores to discover new lands. It was then that I realized that taking calculated risks was not about being fearless, but about forging ahead despite the fear. With my heart pounding like a drum, I signed the acceptance letter. The next months were a whirlwind of uncertainties, but also unparalleled learning and growth. There were days when I questioned my decision, moments when the fear resurfaced, but each challenge surmounted felt like a personal victory. The risk began to pay off, not just in financial terms, but in the form of a richer, more fulfilling life. We often miss out on incredible opportunities because we let fear overshadow our courage. But it's essential to remember that risks, when calculated and pursued with passion, can lead to extraordinary rewards. The job at the startup eventually propelled me into a career that I never dreamed possible, filled with adventures and experiences that molded me into who I am today. In retrospect, the decision to take that risk was a pivotal moment on my journey. It taught me that the biggest regrets are not of the risks we take, but of the chances we let slip away because we were too afraid to try. So here's to finding the courage within us, to embrace the unknown, and to chase the dreams that make our hearts race. Chapter 6: Fostering Healthy Habits. Mindful Eating for Energy and Vitality. As I sit here reflecting on my journey toward better health and energy, I can't help but think about the profound impact that mindful eating has had on my life. It wasn't an overnight transformation, but a gradual shift in how I approached food and its role in my overall well-being. My body had always been the vessel that carried my ambitions and dreams, but it wasn't until I started paying close attention to what I ate that I realized my dietary habits were holding me back. The first step was acknowledging the connection between what I consumed and how I felt. Mornings had always been a struggle. Waking up groggy and feeling lethargic throughout the day had become my normal. I often found myself reaching for sugary snacks or caffeine-laden drinks, thinking they'd give me the jolt of energy I needed. Little did I know, these quick fixes were merely temporary, leaving me more drained in the long run. The turning point came when I decided to take a closer look at my eating patterns, seeking foods that would sustain my energy rather than provide short-lived spikes. One of the most transformative practices I adopted was prioritizing whole, nutrient-dense foods. Fresh fruits, leafy greens, and lean proteins became staples in my diet. I began to notice a significant difference in my energy levels. No longer did I need to combat the afternoon slump with another cup of coffee. Instead, a handful of nuts or a piece of fruit kept me invigorated. It felt as though my body had been craving these natural sources of energy all along. Another crucial aspect was the act of eating mindfully. In our fast-paced world, it's easy to scarf down meals without truly appreciating them. I made a conscious effort to slow down, savor each bite, and listen to my body's signals. This simple shift turned every meal into an opportunity to nourish not just my body, but my soul. Eating became a meditative practice where I connected deeper with my senses and the present moment. It was in those moments of awareness that food became more than sustenance. It became a source of vitality. What took me by surprise was the mental clarity that followed. As my diet improved, so did my focus. Tasks that previously felt overwhelming were now approached with a renewed sense of clarity and purpose. My productivity soared, and I found myself accomplishing more in less time. It was as if a fog had lifted, allowing me to navigate my day with heightened efficiency. But the journey wasn't without its challenges. Cravings for unhealthy foods didn't disappear overnight. I had to be gentle with myself, recognizing that occasional indulgences were part of the process. Over time, my body started to crave healthier options more naturally. It was a testament to the adaptability of the human body and how, given the right nutrients, it can thrive beyond our expectations. As I sit here, sipping on a green smoothie packed with spinach, banana, and a touch of almond milk, I feel a deep sense of gratitude. This journey of mindful eating has not only elevated my energy levels, but has also enriched my life in ways I never imagined. It's a continuous practice, one that requires attention and intention, but the rewards are immeasurable. Here's to fueling our bodies in a way that honors our potential and propels us toward a life filled with vitality and focus. The importance of regular exercise. When I first stepped onto the cold, hard concrete of my local gym 5 years ago, I had little idea how much I would change, not just physically, but mentally too. Many people embark on fitness journeys with the goal of losing weight, building muscle, or perhaps preparing for a marathon. For me, it was more about reclaiming control over my life. I was looking for a sense of stability among the chaos that often overwhelmed me. Every morning, I laced up my sneakers and hit the pavement with a determination that bordered on mania. I started small, just a jog around the block, then gradually pushing to a mile, then 2 miles. After each run, I felt a sense of accomplishment that was unfamiliar but intoxicating. Little did I know, these moments of victory were shaping me in ways I couldn't yet comprehend. In the early days, my mind was often flooded with self-doubt and hesitation. I wondered if I could sustain this habit, if it was even worth the sweat and soreness. But over time, I noticed a shift. The same discipline and consistency I had cultivated in my physical routines slowly crept into other aspects of my life. Tasks at work seemed less daunting, my patience extended an extra mile, and even my relationships felt more balanced. The secret, I discovered, was in the steady, unrelenting routine. Exercise wasn't just an escape anymore, it was a teacher. Each session at the gym or lap around the park taught me about commitment, resilience, and the sheer power of a determined mind. With every weight I lifted, I also let go of some mental burden. The fear of failure, the weight of expectations, the grip of procrastination. As the weeks turned into months, I became faster, stronger, more confident. But the real transformation was happening inside. I handled stress better, slept more soundly, and found a new sense of happiness that wasn't there before. My mind was no longer a chaotic whirlpool. It had become a calm, focused stream, directed by the consistent flow of physical exertion. In retrospect, regular exercise gave me much more than a toned body or increased stamina. It endowed me with self-discipline and an unshakable sense of self-worth. The lessons from those early morning runs and late-night gym sessions spilled over into every facet of my life, painting it with a richer, more vibrant hue. But just as I felt I had mastered this delicate balance, life threw me a curveball. One evening, after an exceptionally grueling workout, I received a call that would test everything I had built, forcing me into a confrontation with my deepest fears and doubts. As the phone rang, its insistent tone slicing through the tranquil evening, I understood that real strength wasn't just about muscles or miles. True resilience meant meeting life's challenges head-on, armed with a mental fortitude I had painstakingly nurtured, one run at a time. Practicing self-care for balance. The soft hum of my alarm clock drifts into my dreams, nudging me awake from a deep slumber. It's 6 a.m., and the world outside is still wrapped in the cloak of dawn. I stretch lazily under my sheets, feeling the warmth of the morning sun beginning to filter through my blinds. In these quiet moments, self-care becomes an intimate ritual, one that sets the tone for the balance I seek throughout the day. I roll out of bed and head to the kitchen for a glass of water, a simple yet profound act of nourishment. Hydration is my first step in honoring my body's needs. As the cool liquid flows down my throat, I feel an immediate connection to my physical self, a subtle reminder that every small act of self-care compounds to create harmony within. Once hydrated, I step onto my yoga mat. The smooth surface feels familiar under my feet, grounding me in the present. I begin with deep breathing exercises, inhaling positivity and exhaling stress. Yoga, for me, is not just a physical exercise. It's a meditative practice that aligns my mind, body, and spirit. Each pose, each stretch, carries me closer to a centered state, preparing me to face the day's challenges with grace. After my yoga session, I transition into journaling. With a steaming cup of herbal tea by my side, I let my thoughts spill onto the pages of my journal. Writing is my sanctuary, a space where I unravel my emotions and gain clarity. It's astonishing how letting go of inner turbulence on paper can create mental peace. Through this practice, I unravel knots of anxiety and weave threads of insight and gratitude. As I immerse myself in my daily tasks, I make it a point to incorporate short breaks. Whether it's a 5-minute walk in my garden or a moment to savor a nutritious snack, these micro-moments of self-care keep me energized and focused. They remind me that productivity isn't about relentless hustle, but about pacing oneself to sustain long-term well-being. The evening brings a different rhythm. I run a warm bath infused with lavender essential oil, the fragrant steam enveloping me in a cocoon of calm. This ritual not only soothes my muscles, but also signifies the transition from work mode to relaxation. As I soak, I reflect on the day's achievements and lessons, allowing myself to appreciate the journey rather than just the destination. Finally, as the night descends, I indulge in reading a good book or listening to calming music. This final act of self-care lulls me into restful sleep, a pivotal component of maintaining balance. These diverse self-care practices provide a tapestry of balance that supports my disciplined life. Each act, though small in isolation, becomes monumental when woven together. The magic lies in their consistency and my commitment to honoring myself. Amidst the ebb and flow of daily life, self-care is the anchor that keeps me from drifting away into chaos. It's a gentle reminder that balance is not a destination, but a continuous journey of self-love and mindfulness. Chapter 7. Cultivating Self-Discipline. Training your willpower muscle. When I first set out on the journey to strengthen my willpower, I felt as unsteady as a newborn fawn. I had heard willpower could be trained, much like a muscle, but the abstract notion seemed distant from the practical aspects of daily life. However, I soon learned that just like physical exercise, building willpower requires consistency, gradual challenges, and sometimes, a little discomfort. My first breakthrough came during an otherwise mundane Tuesday. Armed with an undying curiosity and an insatiable desire for change, I decided to commit myself to a simple yet grueling task: avoiding my beloved afternoon snack. For someone who has religiously adhered to a 3 p.m. chocolate fix, this was no small feat. Every cell in my body rebelled against the idea, but I held firm, reminding myself of the greater goal. It was agonizing, I won't lie. I felt the minutes stretch into hours, but as the day came to a close, I experienced a rush of satisfaction. Not from any sugar spike, but from the clarity that I could control my impulses. With that small victory under my belt, I began to experiment with other exercises. Each time, the task grew a bit harder. Waking up at 5 a.m., saying no to a second helping at dinner, or holding my tongue during a heated conversation. Each challenge stretched my willpower just a bit further, like how one adds more weight to a lift. There were times I stumbled, of course. I would cave into old habits, but I realized that these moments didn't represent failures. Instead, they were part of the path to greater resilience. I met others who were on similar journeys, and their stories of resilience fueled my own drive. There was Denise, who managed to quit smoking after 20 years by slowly reducing her daily intake by 1 cigarette each week. Her dedication was unwavering, and watching her struggle through each day was both humbling and inspiring. And then there was Mark, a marathon runner who had once been a chronic procrastinator. He shared how setting small, unshakable goals had not only improved his running times, but also transformed his life. One day, everything came full circle when I faced a crisis of my own. A sudden family emergency demanded both my emotional and mental fortitude. In that critical moment, I found that the willpower I had painstakingly built over the months became an unbreakable anchor, keeping me steady amidst the chaotic storm. Never had I felt so grounded, so capable. I was reminded that training one's willpower is not merely an exercise in self-denial. It is the forging of an inner strength that can carry you through life's fiercest tempests. Each exercise, every story shared, was a testament to the boundless potential that lies within each of us. Like sculptors chiseling away at a block of marble, we shape and refine our willpower with each deliberate act. It's an ongoing process, one that never truly ends, but with each step, life becomes richer, more vibrant, and infinitely more manageable. And so, I continue to train my willpower muscle, knowing that every small act of discipline builds towards a stronger, more resilient me. It's a journey without a final destination, but one that fills me with immense purpose and unshakable resolve. Resisting temptation and distractions. Sometimes, staying focused feels like navigating a labyrinth while blindfolded. Every corner harbors a new distraction waiting to pounce on your concentration. I recall one particularly challenging period when I was determined to complete a novel. The deadline loomed, and inspiration was at its peak, but so was the allure of my favorite TV series premiering its new season. My social media was a cacophony of alerts, each notification a siren's call promising instant but fleeting gratification. At first, I believed I could multitask, watching one episode as a reward for every chapter one completed. The first episode spilled into two, which melted into an overwhelming sense of urgency to binge through the entire season. Weeks passed, and my manuscript gathered digital dust, while my binging sped on unchecked. My initial plan had crumbled, and my envisioned timeline had warped into an unrecognizable mess. It was then I realized, satisfying an immediate desire often undermines long-term objectives. I decided to employ a few strategies that I'd once scoffed at. First, I instituted strict time blocks dedicated solely to writing. My phone was switched to Do Not Disturb, and my internet connection was limited to research-specific browsers only. It felt draconian at first, this self-imposed exile from digital society, but gradually, it worked. My concentration sharpened, my creativity flourished, and the words flowed like they hadn't in a long time. Personal anecdotes aside, it's crucial to understand that distractions come in myriad guises. They can be as simple as the lure of your smartphone, as habitual as unnecessary coffee breaks, or as complex as your mind wandering to unimportant tasks. Identifying and acknowledging these distractions is the first step. Develop a plan. Stick to a schedule. Involve a friend or family member to check in on your progress. Sometimes, the accountability to another person can bolster your resolve. Recently, during a high-pressure project at work, I faced the temptation of procrastination yet again. The task was daunting, an analytical report demanding utmost precision. But every ping of a new email, every non-work-related chat, drew my focus away. This time, I used a timer technique called Pomodoro, 25 minutes of focused work followed by a 5-minute break. It was remarkable. These small, structured intervals boosted my productivity significantly. I completed the report ahead of schedule, gaining not just a professional edge but also a profound sense of personal achievement. In resisting temptation, there is a power and freedom that extends beyond the present moment. It enables you to reclaim your time and direct it towards goals that truly matter. Distractions might always loom on the fringes, but with conscious strategies and self-discipline, their grip can be loosened. Developing consistent habits. The journey toward mastering consistency felt like navigating a labyrinth. Each day was a new passage, an enigma demanding to be solved. My first real run-in with the power of habit came during a particularly turbulent period of my life. I was struggling to balance work, personal projects, and my health. My schedule was a mess. I would sporadically dive into tasks with fervor, only to burn out and abandon them halfway. It was obvious I needed a change, but change itself can be an intimidating prospect. I decided to start small. Everyone talks about making grand resolutions, but I had read somewhere that small, manageable goals were the key to lasting transformation. I picked my morning routine as my first battlefield. I set my alarm clock 30 minutes earlier than usual. Initially, waking up to that shrill sound felt like wrenching myself from the comforts of another world, but I persisted. The first few days were rough, not just physically, but mentally. I had to constantly remind myself why I was doing this. Breaking from the warm cocoon of my bed was an act of war against my old self, and I intended to win. It wasn't long before those extra 30 minutes became a sacred ritual. I would spend them in quiet reflection, journaling my thoughts, or doing light stretches. That small effort rippled out, creating waves of change that touched the rest of my day. Suddenly, I found myself tackling tasks more effectively, imbued with a newfound sense of calm. I felt like the captain of my ship again, steering through calm and storm with equal ease. Consistency was no longer a burden. It was the wind in my sails. The real magic happened when I began applying this approach to other aspects of my life. Work became a series of well-planned sprints instead of desperate marathons. I set aside specific times for reading, exercising, and even relaxation. Each block of time dedicated to a purpose made my day feel like a complex but harmoniously balanced dance. The trick wasn't in the complexity of the habits themselves, but in their simplicity and repetition. It was about showing up, day after day, rain or shine, motivated or not. However, let's not mistake consistency for rigidity. One of the critical lessons I learned was the importance of flexibility within that framework. Life is unpredictable, and sticking rigidly to a plan can sometimes be more damaging than helpful. There were days when an unexpected event would throw my schedule off course, but rather than beating myself up, I learned the value of my motto: adapt, don't abandon. It's okay to stumble. The real test of consistency is how quickly you get back on track. Over time, these small victories accumulated into significant changes. I saw progress in my health, improvement in my work, and most importantly, a sense of fulfillment. Consistency had transformed from a daunting requirement into a reliable ally. It was like building a muscle. The more I practiced, the stronger I became, and the easier the routines felt. I realized that the journey of forming consistent habits is never truly over. It's a continual process of growth and adaptation. So, as I reflect on this transformative journey, one thing is clear: consistency is the foundation upon which lasting change is built. It's not the grand gestures but the small, daily acts that, collectively, lead to success. In this endless labyrinth of life, consistency is the thread that guides us out of the maze, step by deliberate step. And while it's not always easy, its rewards are undeniably worth the effort. Chapter 8: Creating a Supportive Environment. Surrounding yourself with positive influences. I used to think I could handle everything on my own. I thought my mindset was impermeable, a fortress guarded against external forces. How mistaken I was. My journey took an unexpected turn when I began to recognize the immense power of my surroundings. It started with a chance encounter. I met Lucy at a local coffee shop. She had an infectious energy, the kind that made even the clouds seem too intimidated to linger in her presence. Initially, I was skeptical. Could her positivity really make a difference in my fairly ordinary life? Yet, as we started meeting more frequently, I noticed subtle changes. Lucy had a knack for reframing everyday occurrences. What I saw as obstacles, she termed opportunities. When I worried about a presentation at work, she saw it as a stage for showcasing my skills. Her influence wasn't in giving me solutions, but in altering my perspective. My world didn't change overnight, but her attitude began to seep into my daily life. I found myself being less critical and more appreciative. The people and environment that I chose to engage with started to reflect this newfound positivity. As Lucy's optimism molded my outlook, I saw an opening to expand this circle of positive influence. I joined a local writers' group, composed of a vibrant mix of enthusiasts and professionals. Here, encouragement and constructive critique were in perfect balance. The inspiration and camaraderie fueled my passion and confidence to write more authentically. However, the true test came when I faced a major setback. My manuscript was rejected by a publisher. The dejection was profound but temporary. The support from my newfound circle was overwhelming. Instead of seeing it as an end, they encouraged me to view it as part of a larger journey. This experience reinforced an undeniable truth: our environment profoundly shapes our mindset. By consciously surrounding myself with positive influences, I not only improved my outlook, but also gained resilience and clarity. The people we choose to be around can either uplift us or pull us down. The choice is ours. As I continue my journey, I am ever more mindful of the company I keep and the atmosphere I cultivate. It's a continuous process that rewards me daily with growth and fulfillment. The importance of positive influences can't be overstated. They've transformed my life's trajectory, and they can change yours too. The key lies in recognizing and embracing them, allowing their impact to create a ripple effect through every facet of our existence. Seeking mentorship and guidance. As I navigated through life's myriad challenges, the importance of mentorship became glaringly apparent. I recall my early years, fueled by ambition but often directionless. It was during this chaotic period that I first encountered Mr. Harris. A distinguished professional with a wealth of experience, Mr. Harris had an aura of wisdom that was both intimidating and inviting. During our first meeting, his perceptive eyes seemingly dissected my ambitions and fears with surgical precision. He had this uncanny ability to distill complex concepts into digestible insights, making everything seem less daunting. The advice he provided was not mere theoretical speculation. It was grounded in lived experiences, forged in the crucible of his own trials and errors. He taught me the value of patience, the significance of perseverance, and the critical importance of reflection. Under his guidance, I learned to navigate obstacles with a strategic mindset, rather than succumbing to reactive impulses. The mentorship Mr. Harris extended to me was not confined to professional realms alone. His guidance permeated into my personal life, creating a holistic approach to growth and problem-solving. My journey towards self-improvement accelerated in unimaginable ways. I remember particularly challenging days when his counsel was my compass. His words had a way of resonating deep within, offering clarity when the fog of uncertainty clouded my judgment. The transformative power of mentorship lies in such moments, where the right guidance catalyzes exponential growth. With each passing interaction, I felt the layers of self-doubt peeling away, revealing a more resolute and confident self beneath. What struck me most was his genuine interest in my progress. He wasn't merely dispensing advice, he was invested in my journey. The realization that someone of his stature believed in my potential was profoundly empowering. Each piece of guidance, each nugget of wisdom, acted as a stepping stone, propelling me towards a future that once seemed an abstract dream. Today, I stand on the precipice of that dream, fueled by the lessons imparted by my mentor. In the crucible of mentorship, I found not just guidance, but the forging of my truest self. Building a network of accountability. Accountability isn't just a word we toss around when we're feeling particularly disciplined. It's a cornerstone of commitment and steady progress. I remember the first time I truly understood its weight. I had set a goal to finish my first novel within a year. As the initial excitement waned, procrastination set in. That's when I realized I needed help, a network to keep me on track. So, I reached out to a couple of friends who were also working on their own creative projects. We formed a small group and agreed to check in with each other every week, sharing our triumphs and setbacks. That simple act of knowing I had to report my progress was a game changer. Just the thought of letting them down pushed me to write every single day, even on the ones that felt particularly uninspired. One of the most memorable experiences was with my friend, Jane. She was working on a photography portfolio at the time. We exchanged our work weekly, giving each other feedback and encouragement. The accountability felt almost like a gentle pressure, but it was exactly what I needed. Jane's excitement and dedication were contagious, and it kept me motivated more than anything else. There were moments when I felt like quitting, but knowing that someone else was equally invested in my success kept me going. Another crucial element was setting clear, attainable goals. Instead of vaguely aiming to write more, I broke it down into specific targets. A certain number of words per day, chapters per month, and so on. I shared these targets with my accountability network, and they did the same. This transparent environment fostered not just commitment, but also a sense of camaraderie. It was a shared journey toward individual goals. What surprised me the most was the unexpected bond that formed. Our check-ins soon became more personal, as we began to discuss not only the technical aspects of our work, but also our doubts and fears. It became a space where I could be vulnerable, knowing that my accountability partners were there to lift me back up. This emotional safety net added an invaluable layer to our relationships, deepening my commitment to both my work and my friends. As I reflect on this experience, it's clear that an accountability network doesn't just keep you on track, it transforms your approach to achieving goals. It brings a structure that strengthens your commitment and creates a support system that enriches your journey. I can confidently say that without my accountability network, finishing my novel would have remained a distant dream. Instead, it became a tangible reality, one page at a time. Chapter 9. Overcoming Self-Doubt. Challenging Limiting Beliefs. Waking up every morning with a feeling that the world was too heavy on my shoulders was my normal. Thoughts like I'm not good enough or I'll never succeed clouded my mind, making even the simplest tasks seem insurmountable. It felt as if I were trying to swim through quicksand, every stroke driving me deeper into self-doubt. This persistent inner critic shaped my reality in ways I hadn't even realized. One day, during a mundane conversation with a friend, she casually mentioned a book she read that discussed limiting beliefs. The term struck me. It perfectly encapsulated the tangled web within my mind. Our conversation turned into a deep dive into the origins of these beliefs. For the first time, I took a step back to reflect on the barriers I had unconsciously set for myself. It became clear, identifying my limiting beliefs was the first move towards liberation. Diving deeper, I began journaling my thoughts and emotions each day. Patterns emerged, and I could see where negative beliefs stemmed from past experiences, family influences, or societal expectations. One night, I faced a particularly persistent belief: I'm incapable of leading. With shaking hands, I wrote down every instance that seemed to validate this belief. But I didn't stop there. I began challenging each with concrete evidence of times I'd successfully taken charge. Confrontation was liberating, but it was the practice of reframing that truly transformed me. Every time a limiting thought surfaced, I asked myself, is this true? I replaced destructive thoughts with empowering ones. For instance, I can't do this turned into I am learning and growing. Over time, the voices of doubt grew quieter, and my true potential surfaced. The results were nothing short of miraculous. Opportunities one never thought possible began to appear. I enrolled in a leadership course, gave public speeches, and even started mentoring others who faced similar struggles. My journey from captivity by my own beliefs to embracing my full potential was tangible proof. We hold the keys to our own cages. The process of identifying, challenging, and transforming limiting beliefs doesn't just change your mindset, it changes the course of your life. Building confidence from within. Confidence has always seemed like an elusive shimmer on the horizon to me. It felt like something I could never quite catch, no matter how hard I tried. But over time, I realized something crucial: true confidence comes from within. It isn't granted by external validation. It's built by slowly nurturing our inner selves, like tending to a delicate plant. Personal growth is the first step. Every journey begins with a single step, and often that step is recognizing where we are right now. The mirror doesn't lie, but it also doesn't tell the whole story. I started by identifying my strengths and acknowledging my weaknesses, not as shortcomings, but as areas ripe for growth. I began to invest time in developing hobbies and skills that made me feel accomplished. Achievements, big and small, play a vital role. It's easy to dismiss minor victories, but each one builds the foundation of self-confidence. Completing a challenging project at work, cooking a new recipe to perfection, or even sticking to a new exercise regimen, all these moments contributed to a growing sense of competence. It's not about boasting to others, it's about feeling a genuine sense of pride in one's abilities. Self-reflection is also crucial in this journey. One evening, I sat down with a journal and began to write about my fears and aspirations. The act of putting pen to paper brought clarity. I could see the patterns of self-doubt that plagued me and began to address them systematically, questioning their validity and challenging their hold on me. This practice of self-reflection has remained an anchor in my quest for inner confidence. But possibly the most transformative step was embracing vulnerability. For years, I wore a mask to hide my insecurities. I feared judgment, rejection, and failure. However, sharing my true self with trusted friends and family brought unexpected strength. Their support and encouragement were like rays of sunlight, helping my budding confidence to grow. In the course of this personal journey, I realized that confidence is not about being fearless, it's about facing fears with courage. It's the quiet assurance that, come what may, I have the inner strength to endure, learn, and thrive. The road to building inner confidence is ongoing, but every step forward infuses me with a deeper belief in myself. As I sit here writing this, I remember the pivotal moment that tied all these lessons together. I was at a crossroads, doubting my next move. Instead of shying away, I took a deep breath, trusted in the work I had put into myself, and leapt forward. Though the outcome wasn't immediate, the growth I experienced was profound. Confidence bloomed from within, solid and unshakable. Finding validation from personal growth. Lately, I've been thinking a lot about validation, what it means, why we crave it. It's funny how we spend so much time chasing external approval, only to find it dissolves like morning mist the moment we get it. I used to think a pat on the back from a boss or a few likes on social media were the ultimate affirmations of my worth. But then, one day, standing in front of the mirror, it hit me. When did someone else's opinion become more valuable than my own? The journey to finding validation through personal growth began with small steps. Instead of waiting for someone else to applaud me, I started setting my own goals and celebrating when I achieved them. I remember the first time I decided to run a 5K. It wasn't about outrunning anyone. It was about challenging myself, improving my stamina, and proving to myself that I could do it. Crossing that finish line felt like winning an Olympic gold, only this time, the cheering crowd was me. As days turned into weeks, I noticed a shift in my mindset. I no longer hungered for external praise. I was too busy basking in the glow of my own accomplishments. I started journaling, tracking my progress in various aspects of life, career milestones, personal fitness, mental well-being. Each entry was a testament to my growth, a reminder that I was continually evolving. The validation I once sought from others was now emanating from within, replenishing my spirit in a way external sources never could. This transformation wasn't devoid of challenges. There were times I slipped, succumbing to the familiar lure of external validation. But each time, I gently reminded myself of my commitment to personal growth. I learned the importance of self-forgiveness and resilience. After all, personal growth isn't a linear journey, but a series of peaks and valleys. The most profound realization came one quiet evening after a particularly draining day at work. I sat alone with my thoughts, dissecting the day's events. It struck me that despite the lack of acknowledgement from my peers, I had navigated through a whirlwind of challenges and emerged stronger. In that solitude, I found an incredible sense of self-worth that no amount of external approval could ever replicate. Today, I stand more confident, more self-assured. My worth is no longer tethered to others' perceptions, but anchored in my own growth and achievements. This has not only boosted my self-esteem, but also released me from the incessant need for approval. In this newfound freedom, I've discovered a deeper, more enduring sense of validation, one that arises from within and grows stronger with each step I take on my personal journey. And so, as I continue to evolve, I carry with me the invaluable lesson that the most meaningful validation comes not from the outside world, but from within ourselves. It's this internal compass that guides me forward, fueling my spirit and nurturing my self-worth. Chapter 10. Channeling Motivation into Action. Avoiding analysis paralysis. I've often found myself immobilized by endless possibilities. The sheer act of deciding would become a labyrinth of pros and cons, each turn leading me deeper into the maze of my own mind. It wasn't unfamiliar territory for me, but it was unnervingly disheartening each time, knowing that my own thoughts were the chains shackling my feet. One particular instance stands out vividly. I had been contemplating a career move for months. Night after night, I would lie awake, dissecting every possible outcome, envisioning every potential failure. My mind was a perpetual motion machine, churning incessantly but getting nowhere. The fear of making the wrong decision paralyzed me into making no decision at all, a trap I did not recognize until it was too late. It wasn't until a friend pointed out the simple truth that inaction is a decision on its own that something clicked inside me. How much time had I lost? How many opportunities had slipped through my fingers? I resolved to take a different approach, experimenting with techniques to break free from the shackles of analysis paralysis. One of the first techniques I adopted was setting a deadline. Instead of letting decisions linger indefinitely, I imposed a time limit. Deciding within a week compelled me to focus on what truly mattered and discard the noise. It was astonishing to find how clarity often emerged under pressure. Another method that proved invaluable was breaking down decisions into smaller, manageable steps. Rather than being overwhelmed by the magnitude of a choice, I deconstructed it into sequential actions. Each small decision became a building block, creating a pathway towards the larger goal. This technique not only made the process less daunting, but also built momentum that pushed me forward. Moreover, I learned to trust my intuition. Sometimes, overthinking is just a way to avoid listening to our gut, which often knows what's best for us. Simple exercises like flipping a coin would reveal my true inclinations. If I felt relieved or disappointed by the coin's decision, it signaled what I genuinely wanted, often buried under layers of overanalysis. Overcoming analysis paralysis doesn't mean eliminating thoughtfulness, it's striking a balance. As I continued to refine these techniques, I noticed a shift within myself. Decisions that once felt insurmountable now carried less weight, and the once constant stir in my mind began to settle. I began making strides in my career and personal life. Projects moved forward, relationships deepened, and a sense of accomplishment replaced the stagnation that had plagued me for years. Yet, possibly the most significant change was the newfound peace that emerged from embracing action over endless deliberation. In essence, I realized that making a decision, any decision, was an act of courage, and with courage came clarity. Staying committed to execution. Ideas are like stars scattered across the night sky, illuminated, vast, but distant. When they beam in my mind, they fill me with an intoxicating exhilaration, a sense of infinite possibilities. Yet, I've learned that no matter how brilliant an idea might seem, its real worth is determined by how well it is executed. A thought without action is a kite without wind, destined to fall. My journey of turning ideas into realities has been anything but linear. I recall the time when I first conceived the notion of writing a comprehensive guide on sustainable living. It was an ambitious project, born from countless hours of research and personal commitment to environmental causes. But ideation was the easy part. Taking it from mind to manuscript was a Herculean task. The enthusiasm that had initially fueled me waned as self-doubt and procrastination encroached upon my resolve. It was during those moments of wavering commitment that I discovered the essence of staying true to execution. I started breaking down the colossal mountain of tasks into manageable hills. Each day wasn't about writing an entire chapter, but rather about dedicating time to write a single, focused paragraph. Small, consistent steps soon pieced together what once seemed insurmountable. Keeping a routine was crucial. Mornings became my sacred time for writing. I isolated myself from distractions. Social media notifications were muted, and my phone was but an afterthought. This carved-out sanctuary for productivity became my daily pilgrimage. It wasn't some grand surge of motivation, but persistent discipline and commitment that carried me through. Moreover, sharing my progress with a trusted friend served as both motivation and accountability. The excitement in their eyes each time I shared a new excerpt buoyed my spirits. Their constructive feedback steered me back on course whenever I meandered away from my vision. It was a collaboration of sorts, even if only in spirit, and it reinforced the idea that journeys are often shared, even when walked alone. Days became weeks, and weeks turned into months. The momentum built up over time, transforming fleeting thoughts into tangible results. The guide on sustainable living finally saw the light of day, not because it was a revolutionary idea, but because I steadfastly committed to executing it. I learned that execution wasn't about grand gestures, but about showing up, day after day, even when the excitement wore off and the grind set in. There will always be the allure of a new idea, tempting with its novelty and fresh glow. Yet, staying committed to seeing things through became my mantra, a reminder that real magic lies in the follow-through, not just the initial spark. It's a practice, an art, a discipline, one that turns stars in the sky into footprints on the earth. Embracing the journey, not just the destination. It was a gentle autumn afternoon when I first realized that the journey is as vital, if not more so, than the destination. I remember walking through a path lined with amber and gold leaves, their rustle underfoot a soft symphony that grounded me in the present moment. For much of my life, I'd been caught up in the end goals, graduating with honors, landing that perfect job, buying a house. But that day, each step on the leafy trail made me ponder the overlooked beauty of the process itself. My reflection began with a memory of my college years. I had entered university with a single-minded focus: get the best grades, secure a top-tier internship, and build an impressive resume. In my relentless pursuit, I often burned the midnight oil, sometimes skipping meals and social events, moments that now seem priceless. I succeeded academically, yes, but there was an emptiness that even the diploma in my hand couldn't fill. It was a friend from my literature class who opened my eyes. Over coffee, she shared her vivid recollections of study sessions that were more laughter than learning, spontaneous road trips, and deep conversations that went on until dawn. As she spoke, I felt a pang of envy. Her face lit up not because of the grades she'd earned, but because of the joy she'd experienced along the way. That conversation marked a turning point for me. I began to shift my lens, focusing less on the looming shadow of the ultimate goal and more on the rays of sunlight filtering through everyday experiences. I started paying attention to the small details: an insightful comment from a colleague, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee in the morning, the serenity of a book opened at dawn. Each of these moments carried its own lessons and joys. My professional pursuits gradually transformed. I found greater satisfaction in the collaborative creative process at work, in the shared efforts, challenges, and small victories that came before project completion. These interactions enriched my journey, making the destination seem like a bonus rather than the sole prize. Yet, the most profound shift came when I embarked on a month-long solo trip across Europe. With no rigid itinerary, I allowed myself to wander through ancient cobblestone streets, engage in impromptu conversations with locals, and savor the unexpected turns: a rain-soaked hike in the Swiss Alps, a surprise folk festival in a remote Spanish village, an impromptu opera performance in a Venetian piazza. Each day was an unfolding adventure, teaching me that the essence of travel wasn't merely in reaching a certain landmark, but in immersing oneself in the diverse cultures and experiences along the way. The culmination of these experiences engraved in my heart the irreplaceable value of the journey itself. I've learned to find joy in the process, to celebrate the small wins, and to understand that setbacks often carry invaluable lessons. So, as I sit here today, penning down these thoughts, I am reminded of the words of poet Ralph Waldo Emerson: life is a journey, not a destination. Each moment, each step, is imbued with the essence of life itself. Embrace it, relish it, for the journey shapes us far more than any destination ever could. Chapter 11: Navigating Setbacks. Analyzing Failures for Growth Opportunities. One of the most defining moments in my journey was when I realized that failures were not just setbacks, but invaluable opportunities for growth. It was a subtle shift in perspective, but it changed everything. I was working on an ambitious project that I poured countless hours into, only to see it crumble before my eyes. The frustration was overwhelming, and the temptation to give up was strong. However, I decided to pause and reflect instead of throwing in the towel. The first method I employed in analyzing my failure was an honest post-mortem. I gathered all relevant data and meticulously went through each phase of the project, identifying what went wrong. Was it faulty planning, lack of research, or maybe inadequate resource allocation? I discovered that my research had been surface level at best, making my foundation weak. Acknowledging this wasn't easy, but it was the first step toward genuine growth. Next, I sought feedback from those I trusted. Often, we are too close to our own work to see its flaws clearly. By welcoming external perspectives, I gained insights I might have otherwise missed. Colleagues pointed out that my approach lacked a clear, actionable strategy. Their constructive criticism stung at first, but it was essential for my development. Another critical method was to draw parallels between this failure and past successes. I scrutinized scenarios where I had excelled and compared them to the setback, identifying critical differences. This comparative analysis revealed that my most successful ventures had robust contingency plans and flexible strategies, elements that were glaringly absent in my failed project. What truly struck me in this process was the concept of reframing. Instead of viewing the failure as the end, I began seeing it as a case study in what not to do. This reframing turned a negative experience into a curriculum for future success. With this newfound clarity, I started working on a revised version of my project. This time, my strategies were not only well-researched but also supported by backup plans. The transformation wasn't immediate. There were moments of doubt and further minor setbacks, but each small failure became easier to navigate. Over time, my resilience grew, and so did my competence. The once failed project evolved into one of my most notable achievements, primarily because it was built on the lessons learned from its predecessor. In sharing these methods, my aim isn't just to recount my experience, but to emphasize that anyone can turn their failures into growth opportunities. It's about being willing to dissect your missteps, open to feedback, and courageous enough to try again with newfound wisdom. This process did more than just improve my professional skills. It profoundly impacted my personal growth, teaching me perseverance, humility, and the invaluable art of learning from mistakes. To everyone facing failure, remember this: it is not the end but a potent beginning. It's an invitation to analyze, learn, and emerge stronger. Here's to embracing our failures and the extraordinary opportunities they offer for growth. Rebounding from disappointment. Disappointment is a universal human experience, one that leaves a sting and makes us question our paths, our choices, and often, our own self-worth. I felt the cold slap of disappointment more times than I'd like to admit, each instance a puncture to the balloon of optimism that buoyed my daily endeavors. Yet, I've come to realize that disappointment can serve as a catalyst for growth, a nudge forcing us to reassess and realign. Years ago, I had my heart set on a promotion at work. I could practically taste the success that came with it, the new responsibilities, the respect from colleagues, the boost in financial security. When the promotion went to someone else, I was crushed. For days, I wallowed in self-pity, questioning every decision leading up to that moment. But then something remarkable happened. In that space of despair, a tiny ember of determination sparked. I began to dissect what had gone wrong, not from a place of self-criticism, but from a desire to grow. I reached out to mentors for feedback, enrolled in courses to bolster my skills, and set new, more achievable goals. Astonishingly, the focus and drive that disappointment had ignited propelled me further than I could have imagined. One of the most effective strategies I adopted was reframing the narrative. Instead of viewing the missed promotion as a failure, I started to see it as a stepping stone. Each setback became a lesson, and each lesson a building block. I kept a growth journal, jotting down what I learned from each setback, how I felt, and what steps I could take to avoid similar disappointments in the future. This exercise not only empowered me, but also provided a tangible record of my progress. Another strategy was to set micro goals. These are small, manageable targets that created a sense of accomplishment and momentum. By breaking down my larger ambitions into bite-sized pieces, I found joy and satisfaction in the process, not just the end result. Each micro goal achieved was a mini victory that built my confidence and kept the flame of motivation burning. Lastly, I embraced the power of a support network. Friends, family, and mentors became my sounding boards, offering perspectives I hadn't considered and lending emotional support when my own reserves ran dry. Their encouragement was the wind beneath my wings, lifting me higher each time I felt like I was about to crash. In hindsight, those disappointing moments that had once felt like barriers were bridges leading me to new opportunities and growth. They pushed me to become a better version of myself, more resilient, more focused, and more empathetic. These experiences taught me that disappointment is not an end, but a beginning of a new journey. One where each step, no matter how small, takes you closer to becoming the person you're meant to be. And so, whenever life presents a setback, I now see it as a challenge to rise above, to transform the pain into power, and to turn every disappointment into a driving force for future success. The road may be uneven and filled with unexpected twists, but it's on this very journey that we find our true strength and discover what we're genuinely capable of achieving. Maintaining momentum through challenges. The rain pelted against my office window as if determined to make its presence known. Each droplet seemed a tiny drumbeat, contributing to the orchestra outside. Distinctly, I remember the feeling of inertia, an eerie standstill in my mind, mocking my ambitions. Days like this tested my resolve, and the challenge was not the rain but the drop in motivation that came with it. In the thick of my toughest projects, I often found myself confronting mental roadblocks rather than physical ones. The idea of continuing felt like wading through molasses. But the secret, I discovered, lay in breaking down the journey into manageable pieces. A snowstorm in my past served as a perfect metaphor, so overwhelming in its entirety, yet manageable when tackled one shovelful at a time. One strategy that served me well was the application of micro-goals. Rather than attempting to conquer the monumental task ahead, I focused on achieving small, tangible milestones. For instance, during the agonizing rewrite of my first novel, instead of aiming to edit the entire manuscript, I set a goal to refine just one chapter a day or sometimes even a single page. Achieving these little victories ignited sparks of accomplishment, enough to fuel my drive forward. Of course, momentum is not just about setting goals, but also about maintaining energy and enthusiasm. There have been periods, particularly during personal crises, where even micro-goals seemed unreachable. My mother's illness was one such time. My priorities utterly shifted. Maintaining momentum then wasn't about pushing through, but about finding balance and giving myself permission to pause and care for immediate needs. Another strategy that helped was fostering a supportive network. In moments of doubt, reaching out to fellow writers and friends provided both solace and inspiration. Their stories of overcoming similar struggles turned into a lifeline. Remembering that I wasn't alone in my journey rejuvenated my spirit, proving that collective energy is a powerful motivator. Combating the sheer inertia of tough times often required creative diversions. I would switch between projects or take up entirely different activities. I remember taking up sketching as a temporary escape. The act of creating something less demanding and more whimsical worked like a mental reset, reinvigorating my passion for writing. The most salient lesson, however, was learning resilience. Resilience is about consistently showing up, even when progress seems imperceptible. On days where my novel seemed to mock me with its incomplete state, I still sat down and typed. Some days the words flowed, and on others, it was an uphill battle where each sentence was earned. In the grand narrative of life, momentum doesn't always follow a linear path. It waxes and wanes, shadows dancing in an ever-changing twilight. Obstacles will forever be a part of this journey, yet they also offer us an opportunity to innovate, rethink, and strengthen our resolve. I've realized that maintaining momentum isn't just about relentless forward motion. It's also about navigating the periods of lull with patience, adapting strategies, and rekindling passion. The challenges, no matter how daunting, become the very blocks upon which we build our stories, one word, one goal, and one day at a time. Chapter 12. Sustaining Long-Term Motivation. Revisiting and refining your goals. It was a crisp autumn morning when I first realized the true power of revisiting and refining my goals. The sun was just beginning to cast gentle shadows through the multicolored leaves, and I remember feeling a strange mix of exhilaration and apprehension. I had always set my objectives with the best intentions and utmost precision, but something seemed to be shifting. Life had thrown its share of unexpected twists and turns, and I couldn't shake the feeling that my once clear path was becoming blurred. That day, I sat down with my notebook and began to dissect each goal I had set for myself. Some still resonated deeply, while others felt hollow and outdated. This exercise was more than just a casual review, it was an intense soul-searching process. It dawned on me how crucial it was to align my goals with my evolving visions and values. Our ambitions and priorities can transform over time, and if we don't periodically reassess, we risk veering off course or chasing dreams that no longer serve us. To anyone reading this, I can't stress enough the significance of this practice. Imagine setting sail on a vast ocean with a fixed destination in mind. Without regular check-ins with your compass, even a minor shift in direction can lead you thousands of miles astray. Our goals are much the same. Initially, your aim might be clear, but as you journey through life, the waters can become unpredictable, and adjusting your course is imperative. I recall a specific instance when this practice had a profound impact on my life. A few years back, I had my heart set on climbing the corporate ladder in a prestigious firm. Every step was meticulously planned, from completing relevant certifications to networking with key industry players. Yet, as I got closer, I felt an inexplicable emptiness. Success was within reach, but it no longer excited me. After several sleepless nights, I decided to delve deep into why I began this journey in the first place. The reflection took me back to my initial passion for creativity and human connection, which had been buried under layers of financial targets and strategic maneuvers. Reluctantly, I acknowledged that my ambitions had to be recalibrated. That was the moment of truth. I realigned my goals toward something that offered more personal fulfillment, even if it meant starting anew. The decision wasn't easy, but it was liberating. I gradually transitioned into a field where I could blend creativity with impactful work. And looking back now, it was one of the best decisions I ever made. As I write this, I encourage you to carve out some quiet time for self-reflection. Pull out your list of goals and scrutinize them under the light of where you stand today. Ask yourself whether they still ignite a fire within you or if they need fine-tuning. Be honest and brave enough to tweak, redefine, or even discard objectives that no longer resonate. Each step should feel like a breadcrumb leading you closer to a life that's both authentic and fulfilling. In the end, the regular reassessment of goals is not just a recommendation, it's a necessity. Through my own journey of continuous refinement, I found clarity and purpose that guided me closer to my true self. And as your path unfolds, remember that like the changing seasons, your vision too can evolve, inviting you to recreate your roadmaps for a richer, more intentional life. Celebrating milestones and progress. Recognizing achievements isn't just an external validation, it's a vital engine that fuels our inner motivation. Each time we meet a goal, whether it's finishing a project at work, completing a challenging workout, or even making it through a tough day, it's imperative to celebrate these wins. Doing so keeps the forward momentum, like adding wood to a campfire to keep it blazing through the night. Personally, I have found various ways to acknowledge my victories, no matter how big or small. When I hit a milestone at work, I often treat myself to a favorite meal or take an afternoon off to enjoy a hobby. It's a form of self-recognition that says, "You did it, and you deserve this." Another thing I do is share my achievements with friends or family. Their support and encouragement make the victory feel even more meaningful, knowing others are rooting for me. Sometimes, a simple heartfelt recognition, like reflecting on my journey with a cup of tea under the sky, is all it takes to rejuvenate my spirits for the next challenge. While milestones mark significant achievements, progress, no matter how incremental, is equally worth celebrating. To keep myself motivated in long-term projects, I break down the process into smaller tasks, each with its own micro-celebration. For instance, writing a novel isn't just a one-time accomplishment but a series of small wins. Completing a chapter, designing a character, or even getting positive feedback from a beta reader. Each of these moments serves as a checkpoint, a reminder that I'm moving forward even when the end goal seems distant. Recognizing progress isn't always straightforward. Sometimes it requires a shift in perspective. There were times when my progress felt stagnant, and it was easy to get discouraged. In those moments, I realized celebrating progress involves reflecting on where I started and acknowledging the growth, no matter how subtle. It could be as simple as being more proficient with a skill today than I was a year ago. Each step, no matter how small, is a testament to resilience and commitment. I remember a certain winter day, after months of saving and careful planning, I finally bought my dream camera. It marked a milestone in my journey as a passionate photographer. That evening, I didn't just celebrate the purchase, I reveled in what it symbolized, the culmination of hard work, discipline, and clear intention. I took my new camera out for a walk in the snow, capturing the serene, winter-kissed world around me. Every click of the shutter was a celebration, a nod to my dedication and the beauty of chasing one's passion. These celebrations, whether grand or modest, inject enthusiasm and self-appreciation into our lives. They fortify our resolve, making the path ahead less daunting and more enjoyable. So, I invite you to take a moment and recognize your wins. Reward yourself, share your joy, and reflect on how far you've come. Each milestone and every bit of progress isn't just a point on a line. It's the narrative of your journey, a story worth cherishing and celebrating. Finding renewed purpose in your journey. I remember the exact moment it hit me, the heavy realization that the purpose I'd chased for so long no longer felt right. It was as if I had been on a long trek, climbing mountains and crossing rivers, only to find myself staring at a landscape I could no longer recognize. The goals and ambitions that used to drive me now seemed like distant echoes. I had poured my energy into achieving dreams that no longer aligned with who I had become. It was daunting. The path I had meticulously charted and followed was suddenly obscured by a mist of doubt and inconsistency. I couldn't help but feel lost, grappling with existential thoughts. How does one find a new direction when the old map no longer makes sense? The idea of recharting my course seemed not only challenging but also necessary. It was a time for reflection, deep introspection, and, undeniably, patience. As days turned into weeks, I embarked on a quest to unravel my evolving purpose. I revisited past accomplishments, moments I once cherished, and the reasons they mattered to me back then. What had changed? I delved into the core of my motivations, not the superficial accolades or the approval of others, but the intrinsic values and passions that had driven me all along. I found solace in small, everyday joys, the tranquility of a quiet morning, the satisfaction of a good book, and the warmth of genuine human connection. Gradually, new priorities began to surface. The need for material success seemed to fade, giving way to a desire for meaningful experiences and personal growth. I sought out new learning opportunities, explored creative outlets that I had previously neglected, and invested time in relationships that nurtured my soul. The fog started to lift, revealing a path that, although unfamiliar, felt remarkably right. What I learned on this evolving journey is that purpose is not a static destination. It's fluid, ever-changing with our growth and experiences. Accepting this fluidity is liberating. It allowed me to embrace change, to find beauty in the unexpected, and to redefine success on my own terms. Today, my journey is guided by a renewed sense of purpose. It's about cultivating authenticity, seeking balance, and making a positive impact in ways both big and small. It is in the moments of uncertainty where clarity starts to emerge, where new possibilities unfold. Everyone's journey is unique, but the common thread lies in staying true to what resonates most deeply within us. The path forward may still be misty at times, but there's comfort in knowing that purpose will continue to evolve. It's the journey of rediscovery that keeps our spirits alive, our hearts full, and our steps steady. And who knows what beautiful vistas lie just around the bend. Chapter 13. Balancing Discipline and Flexibility. Adapting to Changing Circumstances. I always believed in the power of routine. Waking up each day to the same schedule provided a sense of comfort and control. Life, however, had a different lesson for me. It all began when the company I had dedicated 10 years to unexpectedly went under. In one day, my stable world crumbled. My daily commute, my colleagues, my tasks, they all vanished. I was left with an empty calendar and a heart full of uncertainty. Initial panic morphed into a desperate search for something, anything, to fill the void. During those first few weeks, I received numerous pieces of advice. Stay positive, look for the silver lining, you'll find something better, they all said. But it was a conversation with my grandmother that truly shifted my perspective. She told me, change can either make you a victim or a warrior. It's your choice. Her words struck a chord deep within. They weren't just clichés, but a call to action. I decided to embrace the unknown with an open heart. With no job to tether me to a location, I took a leap of faith and moved to a quaint town by the coast. The decision wasn't easy. My comfortable apartment in the city, the familiar hustle and bustle, it was hard to let go. But the peaceful town offered an unforeseen opportunity to rediscover myself. One lazy afternoon, while sipping coffee at a seaside cafe, I stumbled upon an ad for a local writing group. I had always enjoyed writing as a hobby, but had never considered it beyond the occasional blog post. On a whim, I decided to join. Meeting new people and sharing our stories became the highlight of my week. It was there I met Clara, an elderly novelist whose passion for storytelling rekindled my own. Encouraged by Clara and the group, I began to take my writing seriously. What started as therapeutic journaling turned into full-fledged novel writing. Each chapter one wrote helped rebuild my confidence. Months passed, and my little valley of uncertainty transformed into a landscape of endless possibilities. One of my pieces caught the eye of a publisher, leading to my first book deal. The thrill of seeing my words in print was indescribable. Adapting to change had become more than just surviving. It had become a journey of thriving. The unexpected turns, while initially intimidating, led to opportunities one hadn't dreamed were possible. Life taught me that flexibility isn't about abandoning our plans, but being open to better ones. The path we set out on might get obstructed, but often, there's a more rewarding route just around the corner, waiting to be discovered. It's fascinating how in the midst of chaos, we find our true calling. If I hadn't lost that job, I might never have found my passion for writing. What life took away with one hand, it granted so generously with the other. Looking back, the change that once seemed a disaster now feels like the best thing that ever happened to me. But just as I settled into my newfound life, another unexpected turn loomed on the horizon. Little did I know, this next shift would challenge my adaptability in ways I could never have foreseen. Being open to new opportunities. It was a gray morning when an unexpected email landed in my inbox. At first glance, it seemed like another piece of spam, but a quick scroll revealed an intriguing proposition. A startup company on the other side of the country wanted me to join their team. I hesitated. My life was comfortable, predictable. I had a steady job, a close circle of friends, and a routine that offered little in the way of surprises. Yet, something about the opportunity beckoned me. The idea of packing up and plunging into an unknown future was as exhilarating as it was terrifying. Could this be one of those unforeseen opportunities people say can change your life? I couldn't shake the thought. It was like a persistent itch, gnawing at my sense of complacency. After a week of mental tug-of-war, I decided to take the plunge. I submitted my resignation, booked a one-way ticket, and began packing my life into cardboard boxes. My friends were supportive, but skeptical. "Are you sure about this?" they would ask. "What if it doesn't work out?" That was the crux of it. What if it didn't work out? But what if it did? Relocating was as chaotic as one might expect. There were moments of second-guessing, nights spent in half-unpacked rooms, and days filled with odd jobs until the startup officially launched. However, it wasn't long before I found my groove. The team was small, passionate, and every day brought new challenges and triumphs. The unpredictability I once feared became the very thing I thrived on. One evening, while working late, I looked around the office. The hum of computers, the murmur of brainstorming sessions, and the infectious enthusiasm of my colleagues filled the space. I realized that seizing this unexpected opportunity had not only enriched my professional life, but had also introduced me to people and experiences I would have never encountered otherwise. Months turned into years, and the startup flourished. We'd celebrated product launches, navigated financial hiccups, and expanded our team. As I stood in front of a crowded room during one of our investor presentations, I couldn't help but reflect on how far we'd come. More importantly, I wondered where I might have been if I hadn't opened that email, if I had stayed ensnared in the comfort of predictability. Seizing that unforeseen opportunity had indeed changed my life. It taught me that being open to new possibilities often leads to the most rewarding experiences. And though the future remained uncertain, I knew I'd never again shy away from the thrill of the unknown. Learning to pivot while staying focused. I still remember the day I first realized the need to pivot. I was sitting at my cluttered desk, surrounded by stacks of books, journals, and highlight-marked articles. My initial goal was to establish a startup in the tech industry. The vision was grand: to revolutionize the way small businesses interacted with their customers through innovative, user-friendly software. But as months rolled by, filled with relentless coding and endless coffee, the market trends started to shift. Something wasn't adding up. It felt like trying to row upstream, the current growing stronger with each stroke. Sales started to stagnate, and our initial enthusiasm began to wane. Deep down, I knew we needed to change our approach. Still, part of me felt like admitting this was akin to defeat. Wasn't persistence the key to success? Every entrepreneurial handbook I'd read echoed this sentiment. However, ignoring the necessity of adaptation seemed foolish. One evening, after a particularly grueling day of introspection and discussions with my team, I took a walk through the park near our office. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the cityscape. I felt the weight of indecision lifting as I watched a group of kids playing a game. They would change their strategies on the fly, pivot effortlessly, without losing focus on their ultimate goal, winning. It struck me then, that was it. Changing our approach didn't mean abandoning our vision. It meant being agile. It meant recognizing when the tide had turned and adjusting our sails accordingly. The next day, I gathered the team for a brainstorming session. We analyzed our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. The discussion was invigorating. We explored entering the realm of e-commerce solutions instead of sticking to our original plan. It felt like a risk, but a calculated one. The goal remained the same: to empower small businesses. The method was what needed to evolve. Implementing the pivot wasn't easy. We had to let go of some cherished ideas and invest time in learning new technologies. Our focus shifted but didn't wane. We were determined to keep our larger vision in sight. The challenge was balancing the new direction while staying committed to our core mission. Each step we took reaffirmed that we were on the right path. Months later, our first e-commerce solution went live. The response was overwhelmingly positive. We weren't just surviving, we were thriving. Our ability to pivot while remaining focused on our true goal had paid off. The pivotal moment had not just been a test of our flexibility, but a testament to our dedication and resilience. Looking back, I realized that learning to pivot while staying focused is not just a business skill but a life lesson. It's about recognizing the journey's fluid nature and being brave enough to course-correct while holding on to the essence of your vision. The world changes, circumstances evolve, and challenges arise, but with the right balance of steadfastness and adaptability, the ultimate goal remains within reach. The art of the pivot is an ongoing lesson. Each experience teaches me something new about resilience and vision. It's not about knowing all the answers in advance, but about being ready to find them, one step at a time, with unwavering focus. Chapter 14. Inspiring others through your discipline. Leading by example. There is an undeniable magic in being an example. I've always believed that actions indeed speak louder than words. Growing up, my father was a living testament to this. He was never one for grand speeches. Instead, he allowed his actions to tell his story. Rising before dawn and returning long after dusk, his commitment to work was evident. He didn't just instruct us to be diligent, he showed us how to be. This lesson embedded itself deeply within me, shaping how I navigated my own life. As I embarked on my professional journey, I found that the most potent leadership came from what I did rather than what I said. Early on, I took a job where the work environment was riddled with complacency. My colleagues were competent, no doubt, but there lingered a sense of routine, an adherence to doing just enough. Words of motivation only took us so far. It became clear that if change were to happen, it had to begin with actions. I took it upon myself to arrive earlier and leave later than anyone else. Not out of obligation, but out of a genuine desire to improve and set a higher standard. At first, it was met with curiosity and even skepticism. My presence in the office during off hours became a silent yet potent message. Over time, a fascinating transformation began to unfold. Colleagues started to match my commitment, coming in earlier and staying later. The atmosphere gradually shifted from one of mere routine to one brimming with enthusiasm and innovation. The most poignant reminder of the effect of leading by example came during a particularly challenging project. Deadlines loomed, and stress levels ran high. Instead of micromanaging, I dove into the work alongside my team. We navigated the turbulence together, and they witnessed firsthand my refusal to be daunted by pressure. This camaraderie fostered an unspoken bond and a collective determination to succeed. You could feel the energy, the shared sense of purpose. The project that seemed insurmountable was completed not just on time but surpassed expectations. Over the years, I've seen this principle of leading by example resonate beyond the workplace. In my personal life, be it in helping my children with their school projects or volunteering for community services, the power of action inevitably inspires others. There's something profoundly human in observing someone choose to act. It lights a spark that mere words can seldom ignite. The realization that our actions can ripple through the lives of others is empowering. It places a quiet yet significant responsibility on each of us to lead with integrity and purpose. After all, when words falter, it's the actions that carry forwards the flames of inspiration. Sharing your journey to motivate others. When I first started sharing my journey, I had no idea it would resonate with so many people. I was simply telling my story, sharing the highs, the lows, the moments of doubt, and the small victories. I remember the first time someone reached out to me after hearing my story. They told me how my honesty and vulnerability had given them the courage to face their own challenges. That was the moment I realized the true power of sharing. It wasn't always easy to be so open. Talking about my struggles sometimes felt like reopening old wounds. But as more people began to approach me with their own stories, I understood that vulnerability wasn't a weakness, it was a bridge. Each person who connected with my journey carried a piece of it into their own life, and in turn, they shared their experiences, creating a tapestry of resilience and hope. As I continued to share, I started to see a pattern. People found courage in my experiences because they saw a reflection of their own struggles. They saw that even in the darkest times, there was a way forward. They found hope in the knowledge that someone else had walked a similar path and come out stronger on the other side. This realization fueled me to keep sharing, to keep peeling back the layers of my story, not just for my own healing, but to offer a beacon of hope to others. One of the most profound moments came at a community event where I was invited to speak. As I stood on that stage, looking out at a sea of faces, I felt the weight of my words. I spoke about the nights I thought I couldn't go on, the people who lifted me when I stumbled, and the relentless pursuit of my dreams. After my talk, a young woman approached me, tears streaming down her face. She told me she had been on the brink of giving up, but my story had reignited her will to fight. That interaction solidified my belief: our stories have the power to change lives. Each of us carries a unique story, filled with lessons that can help others. By sharing our journeys, we give others permission to share theirs. It creates a ripple effect, spreading hope and resilience like wildflowers in a barren field. I've seen firsthand how my experiences, my triumphs and my failures, have inspired others to chase their own dreams, to overcome seemingly insurmountable obstacles, and to believe in the possibility of a brighter tomorrow. Empowering those around you. It was a chilly afternoon, and the gray clouds rolled overhead like a brooding omen. I was sipping my lukewarm coffee when the phone buzzed. Julia's voice cracked slightly as she spoke about not getting a much-deserved promotion. She felt defeated, on the verge of giving up, but I could hear that faint glimmer of hope she could barely voice. I realized in that moment, she didn't need another platitude, she needed empowerment. From watching people I admire, I had learned the subtle art of mentorship and support. It wasn't about solving someone's problems directly, but guiding them to find their own path. "Julia," I said, "let's plot your next move together." Her initial hesitation melted as we mapped out strategies tailored to her strengths. We crafted an action plan that was realistic yet challenging, ensuring she wasn't just competing but excelling. I felt a surge of pride as she latched onto this newfound sense of purpose. That following week, I introduced her to a few key people in my network who could offer different perspectives. Each meeting, each conversation, seemed to build her confidence brick by brick. I remembered another instance with Malik, a budding software developer who had raw talent but very little direction. We would spend evenings brainstorming projects that excited him, slowly igniting his passion. It was astonishing to see how empowerment, distilled through genuine involvement and mentorship, transformed him into a confident professional who then went on to lead a project team. Empowerment isn't a one-way street. It works through mutual growth. When Laura sought advice on managing her own team, I shared my experiences candidly, including my failures. To empower someone means to arm them with the knowledge of vulnerabilities. Real strength, I suggested to her, lies in understanding these weaknesses and turning them into stepping stones. Watching her eyes light up as she absorbed this perspective was incredibly fulfilling. By the end of the month, Julia got back to me with a voice full of excitement. She had not only acquired that promotion, but also led a successful project that catapulted her into a leadership position. She sent me a note, "Thank you for believing in me when I couldn't believe in myself." I realized then that empowerment was not just about offering guidance, it was about instilling belief. In both our hearts, she knew that the power to succeed had always been within her. She just needed a nudge to unleash it. As the years rolled by, the act of empowering others became my silent mantra. Each success story wasn't merely about their personal victory. It was about the web of collective success we were weaving. And in that web, every strand was crucial, no one left behind. So I encourage you, reader, to look around. Who can you empower today? Their success is a mirror reflecting your own. And sometimes, the smallest act of belief can spark the grandest revolution in someone's life. Chapter 15. The Discipline Blueprint: Living a Motivated Life. Creating your personal blueprint for success. When I embarked on my journey toward success, I quickly realized one universal truth: there is no one-size-fits-all approach. A personalized blueprint was something I never knew I needed until I started scribbling down my aspirations, goals, and the map to achieve them. Personalization was the beacon that illuminated my path in a world cluttered with generic advice and cookie-cutter strategies. It took a lot of introspection, trials, and errors to understand that my journey would be unique to me, just as yours will be to you. My journey began with a clear vision. Envisioning my end goals was akin to painting a vivid picture with intricate details on a blank canvas. What did I want to achieve in my career? What personal milestones did I want to hit? The more I pondered these questions, the clearer my picture became. I wrote everything down, sparing no detail, because clarity is the cornerstone of any successful blueprint. The next step involved identifying my strengths and confronting my weaknesses. Self-awareness was my guiding principle. I took time out of my busy schedule to engage in deep reflection, and sometimes uncomfortable soul-searching. This step wasn't easy. After all, recognizing one's flaws can be unnerving. But it was essential. I needed a realistic assessment of myself to create an actionable plan that wasn't built on illusions. I embraced my talents and devised strategies to overcome my shortcomings. Setting realistic and attainable goals became my mantra. I broke down my grand vision into smaller, manageable milestones. What did I need to achieve within 1 month, 6 months, or a year? Each target was a building block, steadily guiding me towards the ultimate goal. As I met these mini milestones, I felt an exhilarating sense of accomplishment, fueling my motivation and reaffirming the efficacy of my blueprint. But a blueprint is nothing without actionable steps. Planning alone wasn't going to cut it. Execution was paramount. I crafted a daily routine, meticulously planning each day's schedule with precision. Mornings were dedicated to tasks requiring high energy and laser focus, while afternoons were reserved for meetings and collaborative efforts. This routine wasn't rigid but adaptable, allowing me to accommodate unforeseen changes without derailing my progress. Another pivotal component of my blueprint was a feedback mechanism. Regular reviews of my progress kept me on track. I solicited feedback from mentors, peers, and even from within, constantly examining what was working and what wasn't. This iterative process allowed me to refine my strategies, ensuring I stayed aligned with my goals. Surrounding myself with a supportive network proved invaluable. Positive relationships are essential for personal and professional growth. I sought out mentors who had traversed similar paths and peers who shared my ambitions. These connections provided insights, encouragement, and sometimes a much-needed reality check. Adapting to change and remaining resilient in the face of setbacks is where many stumble. Obstacles are inevitable, but they aren't insurmountable. My blueprint included contingency plans for potential setbacks. I anticipated challenges and devised multiple solutions to mitigate their impact. When faced with an unexpected hurdle, I relied on these pre-planned solutions, allowing me to navigate through the storm with resilience and poise. In the end, creating a personal blueprint for success isn't about rigidly following a predetermined path, but about crafting a flexible, adaptable plan that evolves with you. It's about introspection, determination, and the relentless pursuit of self-improvement. With a personalized blueprint, success isn't just an aspiration, it becomes an achievable reality. Embracing discipline as a way of life. Waking before dawn, my eyes naturally fluttered open at 5 a.m. The serene quiet of the early morning wrapped around me like a comforting shawl. Long gone were the days when my alarm yanked me from sleep, groggy and disoriented. Discipline had turned the habit into a natural rhythm, almost like breathing. There's a peculiar magic in starting the day before most of the world even stirs. I padded into the kitchen with the same deliberate steps I take every morning, my mind clear and purpose intact. The discipline I adopted didn't feel like a rigid regime. It melded seamlessly into my life. Whether it's the morning meditation or the methodical preparation of my breakfast, each task was an affirmation of order in a world of chaos. The transformation wasn't immediate, nor was it easy. Years ago, my life was a chaotic scramble of missed deadlines, hurried meals, and endless distractions. Embracing discipline was like signing a pact with myself. I traded comfort for consistency, procrastination for progress. The initial days were a test of will. But as the weeks turned into months, and months into years, discipline didn't just change my routine, it changed me. Disciplined eating habits repaired my health, disciplined work habits boosted my career, and disciplined time management enriched my personal relationships. I grew to appreciate the tiny, often overlooked victories. Finishing a book, making it to the gym, or simply having a clutter-free workspace. Each action mandated another, creating a cascade of purpose and efficiency. It was during a particularly challenging project at work that I fully appreciated the power of my disciplined lifestyle. The project required painstaking attention to detail and unwavering focus over an extended period. My colleagues, under immense stress, often wavered. Yet, I found an odd sense of peace amid the chaos. Each task, though demanding, was performed with a precision born out of habit. The discipline I had woven into my daily life had not just prepared me for routine days, but had also steeled me for these crucial moments. As the project concluded successfully, I realized that discipline had indeed become more than habit, it was a lifestyle. It wasn't about perfection, but about perseverance. There were days when I faltered, of course, but discipline wasn't about never failing. It was about getting back up and continuing the journey. I often share my journey with friends, hoping to inspire them. It's easy to see discipline as an adversary, something that curtails freedom. Yet, in truth, It granted me a freedom I had never known, the freedom to achieve, to grow, and to find inner tranquility. Embracing discipline was the key to unlocking a life of fulfillment, and it's a key I now hold with unwavering commitment. Sustaining motivation for lifelong fulfillment. Years ago, I embarked on a journey, one that I knew would be long and winding, full of ups and downs, triumphs and setbacks. The goal was simple: lifelong fulfillment. But as I quickly discovered, the key to reaching this zenith wasn't just hard work and passion. It was sustained motivation. How does one keep the flame alive, I wondered, when faced with the inevitable trials that life throws our way? In my search for answers, I relied heavily on a few core strategies. Firstly, I learned to set clear, manageable goals. These weren't just end goals, the grand visions that seemed light years away, but also smaller milestones along the way. Achieving these milestones brought a sense of accomplishment and progress. Each step forward added fuel to my motivational fire, reminding me that every little victory counted. These momentary triumphs were like trail markers on a marathon, guiding me on the right path and keeping my spirits high. Another strategy was cultivating a positive inner dialogue. It's easy to fall into the trap of self-doubt and negativity, especially when goals seem distant or obstacles appear insurmountable. I began training my mind to be my biggest cheerleader rather than my harshest critic. Phrases like "you've got this" and "every setback is a setup for a comeback" became my mental mantras. This shift in perspective was liberating. Whenever I faced a hurdle, instead of feeling defeated, I interpreted it as a challenge to grow stronger and better. Connecting with like-minded individuals also played a significant role in maintaining my motivation. Sharing my journey with others, celebrating their victories, and learning from their experiences created a supportive community that was invaluable. We uplifted each other during challenging times and rejoiced together in moments of triumph. This communal bond was a constant reminder that I wasn't alone in my quest. Seeing others succeed reignited my own determination and helped me persist even when the going got tough. However, what fundamentally transformed my approach was the realization that I needed to align my daily actions with my core values and passions. The pursuit of fulfillment isn't about ticking off a checklist of achievements. It's about living a life that resonates deeply with who I am. By identifying what truly mattered to me, be it creativity, connection, or compassion, I could infuse my daily activities with more authenticity and joy. This alignment between values and actions became a wellspring of intrinsic motivation, making even the mundane tasks feel purposeful. But perhaps the most crucial lesson was learning to be kind to myself. Motivation isn't a relentless force that can be harnessed eternally without falter. There were days when I felt utterly lost, unmotivated, and overwhelmed. Instead of chastising myself during these times, I allowed myself to rest and recharge. I realized that periods of low motivation weren't signs of failure, but natural phases in the ebb and flow of personal growth. These breaks gave me the space to reflect, rejuvenate, and return to my goals with renewed vigor. The journey towards lifelong fulfillment is a continuous process, not a final destination. It's peppered with moments of intense motivation, as well as periods of introspection and recalibration. By employing these strategies, I have built a resilient framework that sustains my drive and keeps me anchored to my dreams. Every day presents new opportunities to reignite my passion and move closer to the life I envision for myself. And in this constant journey, I find not just motivation, but a profound sense of fulfillment. Congratulations! You've reached the end of the Discipline Blueprint, Crafting a Motivated Life, brought to you by Mindful Literary. Throughout this audiobook, we've explored the profound impact of discipline on every facet of our lives. From overcoming procrastination and setting clear goals to cultivating a positive mindset and building resilience, you've learned how to harness the power of discipline to transform your life. We started by understanding the importance of discipline and how it serves as the foundation for achieving our dreams. You discovered strategies to create productive routines and master time management, ensuring you make the most of each day. By setting clear goals and breaking them down into manageable steps, you now have the tools to stay committed and motivated. We delved into the power of a positive mindset, turning obstacles into opportunities, and silencing the inner critic. You learned how to develop healthy habits, practice self-care, and build emotional resilience. With these skills, you are equipped to navigate life's challenges with grace and strength. Throughout the chapters, we emphasize the importance of self-discipline, creating a supportive environment, and overcoming self-doubt. By channeling motivation into action and navigating setbacks, you are now prepared to maintain momentum and sustain long-term motivation. As you move forward, remember the delicate balance between discipline and flexibility. Embrace change, be open to new opportunities, and pivot when necessary while staying focused on your goals. Your journey of discipline will not only transform your life, but also inspire and empower those around you. Living a motivated life is not a destination, but a continuous journey. Revisit and refine your goals, celebrate your milestones, and find renewed purpose in your path. Discipline is not a rigid regimen, but a way of life that brings fulfillment, success, and joy. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the Discipline Blueprint, crafting a motivated life. May the principles and practices you've learned here guide you toward a life of purpose, achievement, and profound satisfaction. Remember, the power of discipline lies within you. Embrace it, live it, and let it shape the life you've always envisioned. Keep striving, keep growing, and continue crafting your motivated life. This is Mindful Literary, signing off, but your journey has just begun.